Man here. Alexander D. Fabritas. Here. Mike Arell. Ryan Carroll. Here. Ellie Schoenfeld. Here. Matthew Tilley. Here. Mackenzie Morganwood. Here. Jay Regan.
Here. Is it the same?
Joshua Angera. Here. Luis Garden. Here. Ashley Harris. Here. Riley Wiener. Dylan Dolan. Here. Taylor Apt. Here. Joseph Stooley. Yeah. Alexander Robbins. Here. Erwin Sheeman.
Meeting approval of last week's minutes. Do I have any motions?
Motion to approve last week's minutes.
Second. All those in favor? Abstentions. Last meeting's minutes are now approved. We're now. All right, we're now in open floor for non-senators and moving on to declarations of intent.
We can get started with ICC. So, Fiona.
Hi, I'm Fiona. So I'm a senator, and I am now going to be the ICC 2024 treasurer and secretary. So I just kind of wanted to mix up with Senate, and I want to take the work that I've done in Senate to ICC. So right now I'm on the finance committee, and that really interests me because eventually mattering in finance. So I just want to continue that role as treasurer and ICC. And also in high school, I was on the junior reform committee. So we set up and kind of like made the news and place. So junior studies coming out. So I'm excited about that.
Motion to redo roll call.
Second. All in favor of redoing roll call? All those opposed? Abstentions? So you can say right there about can I get a roll call, please?
Adam Kavanaugh.
Here.
Zachary Doman.
Here.
Alexander D. Fabritas.
Here.
Mike Arell.
Here.
Ryan Carroll.
Here.
Ellie Schoenfeld. Here. Matthew Tilley.
Here.
Mackenzie Morganwood.
Here.
Jay Regan.
Here.
Joshua Angera. Isabel Bullier.
Yep.
Luis Garde. Ashley Harris.
Here.
Riley Wiener. Fiona Dolan.
Here.
Michaela Apt.
Here.
Joseph Stooley.
Here.
Alexander Robbins.
Here.
Erwin Sheeman. Stephen Nailsman.
All right. That's okay.
He's like, I'm here. I'm sorry.
All right. Three of you.
Yes.
All right. I will now open the floor up to questions. Would anyone like to get on the speakers list? Izzy?
Just because I like to keep things easy. How are you going to bring some sustainability into EI initiatives to ICC, even though I think sometimes, the treasurer and the secretary might not be those roles, but I think, it's important to, how can you include them anyways?
Yeah, definitely. For sustainability, I know, and I was the secretary of Maple Hall Council last year, and I was told to write what's happening on paper. So I was like, when are we doing that? Using my computer, and spreading around awareness, making sure you recycle and compost, and really being an advocate. I do feel like a lot of people have some need some more sustainable knowledge on that, and it kind of falls into events that we do. We can kind of use events to spread that awareness. And then kind of same with DEI, having some more specific events, like maybe learning information of DEI, like doing maybe some presentations or like working with the counties or people on campus.
Okay. Anyone else to the speakers list? All right, thank you. We'll now move on to candidates for student, general senators, and we'll start with Ashley.
Hi, everyone. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Ashley Arias. I'm a sophomore currently, political science major with minors in global communication and gender and sexuality studies. I'm currently a general senator, and I'm running to be a general senator again. I'll get this out of the way now. I originally did not run in the spring election, because I was unsure of what my semester would look like in the fall upcoming. Wasn't sure how much I wanted to take on. So I kind of pressed pause and was taking a step back to see what my semester next next semester, my next year, what's going to unfold to look like as far as classes on RA and my other involvements before I decided to fully jump back into Senate and take on the amount of work, amount of time it requires. So I wanted to make sure I was fully dedicated before coming back. And after some reflecting, I decided that I will be able to do everything required of me to be a student senator and take on this involvement again. And additionally, with the year we've had this year with a lot of internal changes that have come to Senate, one thing I wanted to see was a change in the leadership because I didn't think that the people who created the changes internally should get to benefit from them. So I wanted to see that change in leadership before coming back and having this year, repeat next year as being internally focused. I wanted to see that there would be a change and that would be more externally focused. So that was the decision. Once I saw that occur, also influenced my decision to come back as well. One thing I hope to focus on for next year is DEI. This semester, I've worked on the council, the DEI council, and I've been able to work well with the student members on the councils along with the senators. And I've really enjoyed that working with both the senators and the student members because I really have enjoyed the different perspectives they have brought forward and things I haven't thought of before. And that is something I've really enjoyed advocating for those students and bringing forward those diverse perspectives as well. There's a lot of times where we'll all be in agreement about something, but I know that someone who is not currently in this room, one of the other 4,000 students out there will probably have a different opinion than everyone in here does. And I'm not afraid to bring forward that opinion. So yeah. I'm representing again.
I'll now open the floor for questions for Ashley. Izzy?
So you talked about DEI. Thank you for bringing that up. Sustainability.
I think that in a lot of ways, the current practices of Senate are not sustainable in ways that it's a lot for people to handle and it's not something that we can continue on. So just looking internally and looking at our practices and seeing what we can change, what we could do to make it more sustainable. And so that way, not only is it more sustainable for the people currently on Senate, but for the new people coming on to Senate, they can see that everything is manageable. It's a decent amount of workload, it's not overbearing or anything. It doesn't consume you. So that way it can also help increase recruitment. Thank you.
Jared?
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Jared.
So tonight we have a open debate topic about how consent best support boards. How are you looking to best support GIPS organizations?
As far as working to best support the orgs, one thing I've noticed is that it's always the same people who are the ones reaching out to the orgs, who are the ones attending the org meeting, being their org reps. So making sure first foremost, it is more widespread across Senate, that everyone is putting in that work, and not just by going to their events, which strongly encourage org support in that aspect, but also reaching out to the members of the orgs, not just the chairs of the org, not just the president of the board, but also the general members of those orgs as well. Because a lot of times they're the ones bringing those voices forward during the org meetings, and a lot of times that's not brought here to Senate. There's not that transaction where that occurs. So making sure that occurs more often. And changing, just in general, changing the way that it communicates with the various orgs a little bit better.
Good luck. Any other questions for Ashley? Thank you. Yes, we have Caleb.
Hi everybody, I'm Caleb. Well, I am a first-year student. I'm a political science major, general senator. My foremost goal is to bring the initiative set by the new DEI Council to the forefront of the Senate agenda. I'm a strong believer that students of color are overrepresented in the promotional material of the school, but underrepresented in the functionality of students. Voices of marginalized students on campus. I will be frank, I don't know the functionality of Senate quite yet, but I'm eager to learn. So I'm honored to run.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions for Caleb? Izzy?
I'd just like to remain consistent so everyone kind of has like a fair opportunity to share some of their ideas. I really love that you're bringing some of the DEI initiatives, and I'm really happy to see how you've been able to work with Josh on the council. How do you kind of plan to bring in sustainability?
No, I haven't thought about that very much. Honestly, yeah, no, I haven't really thought about that much. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No worries. Thank you for being honest.
Jared?
So I just want to get your input on looking at
I really wanted to work with ICC events for students of color. And also, I really wanted to work with organizations such as the Barbershop. I really want to spread the word on racism and how to promote, just equity and inclusion and social justice on campus. I think a lot of people need to learn what exactly is a biased incident and maybe strengthen a biased response on campus. That's one of my goals. So, yeah.
Any other questions for Caleb?
Thank you so much.
All right. Seeing none, thank you. All right, we're now moving to open discussion. Anyone have any motions?
Motion to open discussion.
Second. All those in favor of open discussion. All those opposed. Abstentions. All right. Any topics of discussion for open discussion? Matt.
What are the best ways to strengthen the connection between Student Senate and its organizations? So as shared with you guys, there was a one sheet, goes over everything that our sister schools do, as well as what we have on campus. By the way, bear with me, it's my first presentation, so it's saying. So there was the one sheet shared that will be that was expected to be read ahead of time, so I will go into the introduction. The reason to bring this ODT forward is to establish better connections between the organizations at Roger Williams University and its Student Senate. I spoke with the current Student Senate President of Salve Regina, Isabella Sullivan, and she gave me information regarding what they do on their campus. This includes the President's Council meetings, which has all organization presidents, as well as the President of the Senate, and occasionally the President of the University attend and give feedback on the events that they are going to have if the organizations, including Student Senate, get the support they need from each other. Salve Regina's Vice President's job description also includes the direct service to the clubs, including working directly with each of the clubs outside of the Directors Council, especially as a liaison, and can allocate funds for events, similar to our Finance Committee, and is required to attend all said events as well. I also spoke with Hannah Lennon, the Public Relations Chair of the Stonehill Student Government Association. She gave some insight on what they do as well. Stonehill tends to be a bit more techy compared to other schools, using platforms such as Microsoft Teams and Skype. These allow for them to have effective and almost instant digital communications with essentially a giant message board throughout all their organizations, clubs, and various advisors. Stonehill also imposes a fee when attending their school in their respective semesters to allow this set for communications such as Microsoft Teams to be funded, as it can get expensive. Franklin Pierce, although not similar to others, has what they call business meetings, where the regular Senate operational practices are completed, as well as non-business meetings, which include all of their orgs being involved in the Senate process. So the design of this ODT is to be constructive and find out ways for, as we move into the next Senate, which ways can we balance ourselves with our other organizations on campus. This is designed to be constructive, and I'm going to encourage a motion to limit debate as we are starting late tonight. But I do want to hear from the audience as well. I think it's important to hear from the audience as well as the Senate on what we can do better. I know what I can do better personally. And with that being said, I think that's all I have.
Before you make a motion, all those in favor of opening this open debate topic? All those opposed? Abstentions? All right, this open debate topic is now open. Would you like to?
15 minutes?
Second.
All those in favor of limiting debate to 15 minutes? All those opposed? Abstentions? Debate is now limited to 15 minutes. Would you like to start off, or would you like to open the speakers list?
I would actually like to open the speaker list, as I would like to keep this as an open discussion.
Awesome. All right, I will now open the speakers list. Please keep your hand out until I instruct you to do.
Thank you. I really like this. Thank you for bringing this up. Fantastic job. I like that this brings in things that we do not have, like infrastructure that we do not have on the Senate. So I guess the question is, do we need to add something to the Senate to be able to do things like this, or how can we utilize the infrastructure the Senate already has to achieve these sort of meetings and things like that? Because I think this is going in the right direction, and this is the direction that we need to go in, but how exactly we go about that, I think that's where the discussion lies.
Alex,
Hi. So a big thing about bringing this ODT for, because I helped Matt work on this, is just to take what we have right now and see what ways we can improve upon it. Like adding a whole new thing will make everything 10 times more complicated. So we are a Senate that should have up to 25 seats, including parliamentarian and president. If I'm mistaken, please correct me. We should try to find a way with 25 people to go to 7 other organizations to support them in multiple ways than one. We shouldn't just say, we have org reps, we've done our due diligence, let's have it now. But we're gonna try to go to more events, try to promote other organizations, their events more, try other ways within our realm to promote it rather than let's add 20 new things to Senate so we can show them off when we should be already doing that already.
Michaela, you can continue to speak your turn.
Thank you. So to go off of that, do you have a set list of like, this is what we can add to this, like the president has to be part of this committee, or like we were saying on there, do you guys have an idea of who would do what and where and how exactly this could be utilized with the structure that we have now?
Do you want to offer a point of information?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So we have discussed multiple ideas. There have been ideas where cabinet members who have multiple office hours, instead of doing the 2 office hours in the Senate chambers, they go to an event or they go to another organization's office, to talk to the organizations there to get their ideas and stuff like that. What was the other one?
Can I continue? Wait, can I do that?
Yeah,
Actually, no. Sorry.
It's just a way that that idea was a way because we're kind of secluding ourselves to interacting with the orgs by just sitting in the office for our 2 office hours, 1, 2, 3 office hours, when we can use that time to interact with the other students on campus. Because yeah, we can get work done in the Senate office. Yeah, we can do that, but our orgs are just as important as us, just because from their perspective, we're the top of the food chain. We should be interacting with them more than rather just being the level head and you can't interact with us. So that was one idea.
Point of inquiry, what's stopping us as senators from going to events or office hours and we have time dedicated for us to do our work, but for events that are posted, what's stopping us from going to events that might not be?
Would you like to offer a point of information?
Yeah, so the answer is nothing. The answer is nothing is stopping you. So the point of this is not to say, oh, you have to reschedule your office hours around an organization's meetings. What we're trying to say is like the encouragement of going to those events could be maybe hypothetically an idea to replace that office hour. You know what I mean? Obviously, everybody's office hours are different. Someone like with a different responsibility could be working on something completely different. Others could, not really have enough time to fit that office hour. So there could be something that this is obviously an open, I picked this idea to make it a brainstorming session to see what we could do better. So the answer to that is nothing is stopping you, but what could change about the office hours that could maybe, benefit the student body rather than, us just sitting in the office. It could,
point of
bounce around more.
information, I
Yeah.
think there is some social norm stopping people.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything physically stopping anyone, but I think it's a social norm about what office hours should look like that needs to be broken in the Senate to challenge that. So we can continue to take some of those times if you're not doing much to go to an organization's event.
Right, and I agree.
Want to move on to the speakers list, Mike?
Hello. So first of all, I want to say thank you. An important subject. But I want to try and make my perspective on the legislative aspect of it and how we improve that. And one of the things that I ended up looking over when in bylaw review committee to changing the process, which we did not do, was the idea that we could need collaboration with organizations as well as collaboration with clubs and also student groups. So currently it is highly encouraged, and that was set back in the older Senate, which is basically put there to make sure that senators are actually highly encouraged to interact. However, there is no actual requirement, which means that now there's no way to enforce that senators actually interact with their community. Making that something that could be required could be a way of changing the process. Yes.
For the information, that's merely referring to legislation. Okay.
Yeah, that's what legislative process.
Okay, just making sure we're talking about the same things.
And then like the second thing I want to mention was the idea of just trying to encourage conversations with orgs, clubs, and student groups first before going to administrators. Of course, this isn't always able to happen depending on the topic, but if it is able to be something that we can perform, making sure that encouragement to reach out first happens.
Fiona?
Never mind.
Okay. Sydney?
Yes. So as a current work chair and a future work chair for next year, I have quite a few thoughts on that I will feel free. So I think that you guys all listen to us every week, talk about every event we have. My America's report tonight is like a page long of every event we have for the rest of the year.
We apologize.
We apologize in advance. However, the amount of you that I see at our events is very small. I see a handful of you, I'm not going to call people out, but I see a handful of you at our events. And I like to think of myself as an org supporter. I go to a lot of events on campus, and I don't see a lot of you at events on campus. So that's number one. Go to our events. And not in like a senator way, go to our events as students. Interact with us, have fun with us. That's why you guys probably feel left out because you don't go to our events and you don't talk to us. And then I sit in the perch, probably every day. I love the perch. I sit there all the time, and I know a lot of other student leaders who sit there. If you are looking for a place to your office hours, do in the perch. There is always student leaders that walk by. I see so many student leaders, but also I have sat in this meeting every week since September, with the exception of last week was the first Senate meeting that I missed. And I would say probably less than half of you know what my name is. So I would say a lot of you, like I would say the perfect example of what you all should look like as work supporters is Luis. He comes to the work support. He talks to us. Not just ICC as their Senate rep, he talks to everyone. We appreciate having a Senate rep. We love Hero. Hero, we love you. Yeah. But a lot of you, we don't see at our events. We don't see you supporting us. And so that really shows that, like, that's why we don't feel that support from you guys. And it's not like you guys are above us. Like, that is not like that. Honestly, don't come to us and be like, I'm trying to help you. Like, come to us and get our concerns as our friends. And we're going to be more like, want to come to you as our concerns. We're going to be more willing to sit through these meetings because we see you guys as our friends, not as people who are above us that are making us come to you. If that makes sense.
Speakers list or direct?
Direct.
Sure. Sure, go ahead.
Also, just like as a person who currently programs, like you all see the hard work that I put into like kickoff, and I think just yes, for the kids in the hospital. I think just like knowing that like you all are coming to our events to support us, it kind of makes the event a little bit more special because yes, we have all of those amazing people who come to the events. But you all sit here, like Sydney said, you hear about all these different events. Just having you come for like 5, even like 10 minutes, like I think there's that idea of support. So just like coming from like a personal program.
Can I direct on that?
You can continue your speaking turn.
Yeah, I'll be back. Also, like if you see us sitting in the perch, most of the time just doing CEN in the perch, and like sit down, talk to me. I don't care. That's what a lot of us like to sit there and do work. And I always sit down, I sit down, bother people from other orgs, and I just talk to them. And like do that. We're gonna want to talk to you. Like I had a great conversation with Mike last week just while I was sitting in the perch. Or like I see Allie and Louise all the time. So like definitely come and sit down and talk to us.
Jared.
So I have a lot of thoughts about this topic. First of all, I have, as someone who's been sitting on the student life committee, thanks to generosity of Allie. Thank you for inviting me, Allie. I really appreciate the collaboration between our two worlds. Unfortunately, I feel like we're kind of the middle child right now. And that's not just because we're really slow, but it's just our office is not even in the org suite. It's down by Cedar. And most of you probably don't even know that because nobody knows where our office is. It's just that random hall in Cedar where with the green door. And also we've had, I think, 5 reps this year, and I've tried to communicate with my reps and the board as much as possible, and I've really appreciated that chance. But it is also a little frustrating, just for me as a student leader and me as fellow student. Sometimes I feel like we're not really as cared about, and our words aren't really heard as much, because when we just get cycled through another rep, and whereas some centers, I'm not going to name names, don't have any orders that they rep for, and that's really unfortunate, because I've seen all of you. You all do amazing work, and
Sure. As for how many org reps you've had, I do want to say how I know that can be frustrating having 5, because you want to maintain that level of communication and maintain that relationship. I think where some of that might have come from is in our bylaws say that the org rep should be a general senator, and when we've had so much movement in our e-board and our cabinet and all of that, that might be where some of that's come from. That member might have just been pulled up to et cetera positions, and that's not an excuse, but that might be an explanation. I'm not saying that that's an excuse at all. I'm just saying explanation wise. If anybody has a motion to extend the time,
yeah, do a motion to extend the time.
By how long?
10 minutes.
Second. All those in favor of extending the debate time for 10 more minutes? All opposed? Abstentions? All right, 10 more minutes added. Jared, you continue your speaking turn.
I also just want to say that one thing that I would appreciate going forward, especially, and Mike mentioned this earlier, is that helping with legislation is really important for us. We are the voice between the residents and the staff and the rest of the university, and we want to definitely to help provide that voice. So I hope we can.
Yeah, so this is the exact reason I wanted to bring this up. It's this is what I personally need to hear. Jared, I served at IRHA for 1 week before I moved up to academic affairs. And I can attest to Allie's point with that 200 movement. We've had a lot of that this year. And that's kind of an explanation, but not an excuse. And Kyle, I remember acceptance students day. I didn't know who you were. So it goes to I'll call myself out on it. I wanted to hear this. And now I know over here, I'll shake your hand. So I'll call myself on it too. The reason, when I look back at these minutes that Zach types so hard every week, I want to look back and see these constructive things that we can bring to Senate. And these, although we can't just change it like this, you know what I mean? We go through a process, but this is the reason I wanted to bring it through. Thank you guys for bringing up these points. I guess that's all I had to say.
Joe?
I think one thing I wanted to point out was that sort of because of that hierarchy where if you join cabinet or you board, they typically I guess point of information is that they lose their reps. And so with Mike, he always said he wanted his old old org. And I guess I wanted to sort of bridge my communication with some of the orgs, because I run more than one and each kind of org runs differently. And participating in them, sometimes I don't participate. Hawks Herald, I just sit there. I'm going to be very honest with you guys. So that's because it's their e-board. So it's not I'm not writing anything. I'm not doing anything. But in IRJ, on the other hand, I'm sort of trying to contribute to the conversation in a more figurative way. This is how we do things here on Senate, and this is how you guys can do it. But sort of fix that gap bridge between your rep and the org. And also, because I want to compare Luis and ICC, they're hand in hand like this. You can't pull them apart. Unless I'm wrong, you can say otherwise. I don't really care. But much love, I'm sorry. But like, I feel like one step is sort of fixing that connection, because as a Senate, we also face the same problems, like Matt stepping up in the cabinet, or a lot of people just coming and going. It's a big problem we're facing. So I feel like it's just one step to sort of fix the process.
Sure.
I think like something like that, like if you guys were like talk about that with like workers more, we're also facing a lot of issues getting people involved, like to come back, to start board, or like to get committee members. And I think that's such a great point that you bring up, and like adding into that discussion, I think is a great example of like kind of like do that in a meeting. But also just like when you talk to people, like I think if you were to come up to me and talk to me about that, I'd be like, girl, I know. You're like, are you kidding me? You guys are facing that too? Like, we have to do that too. Like, this is what we're trying to do. Like, we literally send out 90-something nomination emails to random people in our class. Like, there's so many, it's so hard to get people involved, especially when so many people are burnt out. And I think that's like a great like way to just like be like, hey, like I know you're involved in this. Like, I'm so like just to reintroduce myself, I'm so and so, like, and like we can do that too. Like, we just kind of like, I think in previous years and a little bit of this year, but I think you guys are getting better with it, is sometimes it comes across as you guys see yourselves as a little bit better than us. And I think that's a big turnoff, if I'm being honest. I know that's been a turnoff for me in the past, but like I said, this year I'm friends with a lot of you guys. Like, I think that it's getting better, but I think that also lingers for people that maybe don't really know. I think that is like a way that people view it. And I think that's kind of how people, I think it's also is a little intimidating coming to a meeting where everyone's very well dressed and you don't necessarily know what goes on in Senate. I was very scared to say that I wanted to direct on that point.
Did a great job.
But like, you get used to it. But I think like, that's a great point. And like, if you kind of like, if you come to us and talk to us about like things that are going on in your work, like that happens, it happens to all of us. We're all facing the same issues, just in a different way. And like, we would love to have conversations.
Yeah. First of all, you did a great job on that direct. Yeah, you can continue your speaking. Okay.
Okay, I have a small point. It's not that long. I was just gonna say, like, I'm a freshman here, so coming to this room was like really scary initially. But like, I don't know. I'd like to like meet you guys because I don't really know any of you, and like coming in here, you all are very intimidating. You know, hi, nice to meet you. So I was thinking like, hi Alex, I know you. Hi. But like, if you guys have like a Meet the Senators event or something like that, like for orgs, and like you guys like hang out, I don't know, like eat food or something and wear normal clothes. Like, I feel like that would be like nice. Because I like to meet all of you. And yeah.
Right, it's deceiving. You can.
So I agree. I think that the thing you guys did for like Thanksgiving, the senator, that was really fun, and I thought that was really cool. So I think doing more things like that, maybe if you do one like for the beginning of each semester, because I'm also sure that like as like for like all of the incoming board chairs and board reps, it is super intimidating to like sit in this room. And I remember my first Senate meeting, I was like, so if you do one like at the very beginning of the semester, so like everyone can kind of get to know you guys, and even you can invite all the orgs, I think that that could be fun, and like, but in like a very casual setting where it's like we just like kind of all talk, because I think that everyone in the orgs like should be like better friends. Like I feel like everyone should.
Can I direct on that? Yeah, you can do a point of information. So this is just an idea, but we once a month have a Senate dinner where we all go into the presidential suite in Upper Commons. We all eat together as a Senate. Why don't we invite like the orgs to come and join in on that? Or are we just trying to keep them? I guess that turned into a point of inquiry, but why don't we try to invite them to more of that kind of thing?
All right, there was a point of
it changes to a point of information if you'd like.
A point of information.
Sure.
That was something new that we started this semester, just like the Thanksgiving something was something new. So we've been trying to explore different avenues, but we can definitely take that and roll with that for next year.
Yeah,
Agreed. So, like, we're exploring a lot of different new avenues this year. I think that's something for the new Senate to really take into consideration, new avenues that can, you know, come into place for better connections with our org leaders.
We have personal privilege. How much time do we have left?
Izzy.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so Cindy and Meredith had beat me to this, but like I'm just squash the like hierarchy right now. It's very frustrating here. Just because we give these orgs money does not mean we're better than them. We just happen to be the bank. Okay, we just happen to be the bank. No one is better than another. They do just as much as group work as we do. So squash that right now so we can strengthen that communication and those ties with the people that are really bringing the good events to our campus. And I'll call myself out. I'm sorry, I can never attend your events. I always want to, but there's always a class or I have to go home. And I'm really trying to make them, but then sometimes there's one that's 21 minutes event, and I'm 20. So I'm like, dang it. But, you know, I do see all of the great work you guys are doing on social media, but also thank you for being, like, sharing your concerns with us. I think it's really important that we hear this, even for those who may be really active with you all. Nonetheless, we should still hear it regardless. Additionally, I think some things to consider. I'll go back to the point that I made when we had a lot of individuals come and express their concerns back in October. You kind of have to work internally if you want to fix stuff externally. We have poor communication issues, and I'm going to call all of us on that right now. If we can't communicate internally, we're going to have problems doing it externally. So that is something that the future Senate needs to look at fixing in order to be able to strengthen those external ties too, so you can have and foster healthy relationships with those who are working in the other organizations. With that being said, I also think that there needs to be more equitable distribution of who's a rep and what that looks like, and a smoother transition process. So reps, if they do need to change, don't go without a rep. Unfortunately, I was IRH rep, and I unfortunately had to step back because I had a lot on my plate with a change of semester and a change of roles. And there just needs to be a little bit of a smoother transition with how that holds. What if there's a backup rep? I think there's enough general senators where there could be a backup rep if something happens and one has to unfortunately pull out, then you have another rep who can immediately step up and get rolling. That's all I have to say as of right now.
I'm gonna
motion to extend.
Yeah. What's up? But there's 6 people left in the speakers list. We have 2 minutes left, so I would request a motion to
Motion to extend the debate time by 5 minutes.
Second. Motion to extend the debate by 10 minutes.
I'm gonna veto yours. Would someone second?
Second, Michaela's point.
Motion to forgo the time limit.
Second.
Motions. Yeah, yours was first, so I'm gonna go with that one. So all those in favor of extending the meeting time, but I'm sorry, the open debate topic by 10 more minutes. All those opposed? Abstentions? All right. It's now going to be out of 10 more minutes. And you're done with your speaking turn? I'll go with Ashley. So I think we need to look, in order to try and strengthen the connection between the Senate and the orgs, we need to look at how we connect right now, how we communicate with each other currently. And it's sad that a lot of people don't go near that. Like, I look at my schedule and I am bogged down with everything. And when I see there's an event I can go to, I put it in my calendar and I go to that event. And the thing is, when I choose what events to go to, it's not because I heard about them here at the Senate meeting, it's because I saw you guys promote them on your Instagram, or I saw them on Hotpoint. And so it's sad, but the type of reports you guys share, I don't think are being effective. And I also think that goes the same thing with the reports that senators share as your org reps at your org meeting is also not effective. So I think one thing we could look at doing on both ends is changing what our org reports look like. So rather than you guys coming in here and telling us all about your events and that being your whole report, there can still be space to share about what events you have coming up, because I love hearing about them. But also, like, thinking about what your board members share at their meetings, especially like the advocacy orgs, any concerns, any ideas that your members of your org bring forward, and then coming here to the Senate meeting and sharing those during your org reports as well. And then same thing for senators, when we go and be org reps at org meetings, rather than just sitting there and sharing our report from Senate, also taking down notes of what the other people in the orgs are sharing, especially like what their concerns are, what changes they want to see what they hope like will come in the future, and taking down those notes and then turning those ideas that you hear from those student members into initiatives. And then when you turn it into initiatives, do that legislation collaboration and collaborate with those members of that org that you heard that idea from. So I really think that one potential thing we could do is change what our reports look like.
Point of inquiry.
Sure.
What does the Directors Council look like? Can someone inform me on what that looks like?
Adam, you direct.
So the Directors Council is the new version of XCON. So XCON was the Executive Council. It was chaired by the Senate VP with members of all of the org chairs from the 8 organizations, including the student body president and all the org chairs. The Assistant Dean of Students, Carol Sacchetti, wanted that changed more in the form of a Directors Council, where she was the sole chair of it. And it was run by her, and then the Student Senate Vice President would take a step back and no longer chair it. The point of that was to make it more of a departmental focus on how SPLO intertwines with the 8 orgs and how SPLO can support instead of Senate. So that's kind of the change. I'll share more when it's my turn on the speakers list.
Yeah.
So actually, I do get where you're coming from, but I mean, like, for us, like, CE is a programming board, like, truthfully, no offense, but most of the kids in our org, most of the students in our org do not have any, like, it's hard enough to get them involved in our work. Like, they really are not truthfully paying attention to what you guys are doing because they're so focused on the work that they're doing. So for us, that's why we report on our events. Like, you're gonna hear all 9 events that we have in the next 2 weeks today, because that's like what CEN reports on. Because also, if we have questions about Senate, that's like something that we take to QRI, and we ask him that in our meeting, and like that's why he has his report so that we can ask him questions. So I think that that's kind of the whole purpose of us having like a rep here, so you guys are hearing what we're doing, and then hear us so that he can tell us what you guys are doing. Which I mean, like, is also different because like we're also at your meetings. But so like for us, I don't know, I feel like that's like a big thing because like you guys also obviously have lives, you have class. You're not going to like stalk our Instagrams and stalk our table times, because that's like really why we share those events with you, and that's why we share them with the other org reps, because then they're able to then pass along to like the orgs like what we're doing. Like Kyle sent an email out to all of the org chairs about kickoff, and that's something that we passed on, and like now CEN's having a kickoff team. So like that's like how we're communicating. So that's why we share our events at the meeting. And that's why we share our concerns with our Senate. So like CEN, truthfully, unless the Senate makes a legislative change, you got it. It's gonna keep sharing what our events are. Because that's like how we communicate with Senate. Because that's what we do. We don't do like other stuff. We just run events. If I can,
You can continue speaking to
yeah.
like I recognize like CEN is like different in that in the sense that it is fully programming more, but I was thinking more of like the advocacy ones, and then ICC with like their committees, and hearing when we had the original spring elections, and hearing some of the people running for the cabinet positions on ICC, hearing them say that they want to use their cabinet meetings or their class meetings, those meetings as an opportunity to like hear concerns from people of their class and bring those forward. I think that is something that like us as a Senate, like we can go to those meetings and we can like go and speak with those people. But at the same time, like it has to be a two-way street. It can't be like everyone on Senate asking everything of everyone else. It has to be, and if we're trying to like strengthen the connection between Senate and the orgs, I think there has to be change done by both Senate and the orgs. There has to be something both parties do to try and improve that connection. And then my other point, is I think we also need to look at what the clubs and orgs chair does. Because I feel like a lot of times when I think about the work that the clubs and orgs committee and the chair does, it's very much club focused. Especially when it comes to like taking new trial clubs, listening to them, approving them for trial club status, approving them for full club status, doing the club monthly reports each month, and then the Senate check-ins each month with the clubs. But the only part that during my time on clubs and orgs I saw us working with the orgs, with through clubs and orgs, was when they would come in to approve their approve changes to their contribution. So I think internally, another thing we can look at is possibly changing the way, or looking at the way clubs and orgs focuses on the orgs part of it to try and improve that connection as well.
Kayla. Excellent. Thank you. So I got a few things to say. So I guess we'll start off with this is exactly what should have been going on this whole time, is hearing from the orgs directly how Senate is ineffective to them, so we can work off of that. And then I started next to this that we could have like a caucus after that we invite the orgs to or something like that. And then somebody brought up like a meet the senators, so we could have like not an event, but like I'm going to call it a caucus because that's kind of what it would be for us. But where you guys would come in, it would be low key, but it would be let's get some work done and let's hear what your issues are. So that way it's not so much like a hey, let's just hang out. It is a let's fix these issues. So I think that's something that really needs to be done for the next Senate. So whether that be done by the end of this year, early next year. Anyway, so an issue that I think is going on is I do like the required to go to 2 events or something like that. I thought that was a good idea, but time is the time requirement for Senate has been an R&R issue. So asking to then do 2 more time commitment things on top of it might become an issue. So we got to figure out a balance there on whether or not it can be during an office hour, which would be great. But I also thought it was really valid that you brought up, like, even going for 5-10 minutes. I was like, that's super valid, because I think when we think, oh, going to an event, it's you have to stay the whole event, not just show your face. And it is, as you're saying, showing your face is just as helpful. And I think we kind of have to go over with senators how exactly, it sounds like, I don't want to say stupid, but like straightforward, I guess, that like you go to events, you talk to some people and you leave. But I don't know if the miscommunication is like how to go to an event as a senator, how long you have to go to these events. And instead of just saying, go to the event, it is, I think we need a little more direction there. So I think being able to give senators more direction on going to events as a senator would be helpful. Also, I don't know if it's just me showing my age here. Cork, is it like actually effective? Like, do you guys like regularly go look at it? No? Yes? Yes? No? So we gotta figure out like a until Adrian. Yeah, some part. So I personally, like, I was literally sitting here like, wow, wouldn't it be nice if we had a list of all the events coming up? And I was like, hang on, wait, Cork. So I guess that like that needs to be advertised more, but I also think there needs to be more training for org reps and what exactly it means to be an org rep, what's expected of you, how to act, things like that, what to bring forward. And I don't know, I had something else to say, but I forgot to write it down. Yes. Oh, that's what it was. Perfect. So going off of Ashley's point, I agree that the reports to us about events are ineffective because it's like just like a paragraph of text and you're trying to like write it down as you go. And I know you can ask questions, but I always feel so bad having them repeat themselves for every single event. So I think something that we could do is, because we only get to see what you guys say in your report, like physically, when we get the minutes on Fridays. So by then, the week's already gone. So the events that happen during that week, boom, gone. So I think something that we could do is as part of sending your report in, be like, boom, these are the events, and we can send those out on Mondays. Like, so when they come out, like your, because you have to send in your report by 1:05, something like that. Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to make direct eye contact with you right now. You're just the only one I can see. So with that time, be like, boom, here they are. And so that way it's just copy paste, put them in a Google Drive even, like a Google Doc, and we can, boom, there they are. That's them for the week. And I think just having that list there might be helpful. just so we can get a look, because I know Cork kind of like, it has it, so like it's every person's, like every club's event over like the weird time. So I always look at it and get overwhelmed because I can't read that, like I can't read. So maybe that could be something that would be making this a little more fluid for senators. So that way you're a little more Senate focused versus like, oh, just go look at Cork. Like this is something to help senators specifically better communicate. So I know it's an extra step that might not sound necessary, but I think it would help with communication. So yeah, anyway, that's my many cents.
Motion to
forego the time.
Second. All those in favor of foregoing the time limit on the debate topic? All those opposed? Abstention? Time limit is now foregone.
Motion to exhaust the speakers list.
Second. All in favor for exhausting the speakers list?
Does that include like direct or points of information? Okay.
How many people are on this?
So there's a motion still to exhaust the speakers list. How many people?
Yeah.
Six. All in favor of exhausting the speakers list?
Got a hand, Stephen?
All those opposed?
Oh, sorry.
The speakers list is now exhausted, but you can still add points of information, directs. So I'm sorry. Sydney's for the direct. First person I saw. If anyone else wants to add a point of information, please just feel free. But Sydney is first for the direct.
Thanks, Jordan.
No problem.
So I do not think that you should require senators to go to 2 events. I don't know if it's a semester, a week, whatever. You shouldn't be required to go to events. Simple as that. I think you should go because you want to go. That's the events that we have on culture. And also, your fellow student leaders are putting in so much work to that. And I know that you guys have all of the stuff you guys do and that you guys aren't a programming course. You likely don't know how much work goes into planning an event, but it is so much work. Like I see our committee chairs and our e-board, and they put in so much work to their events, and it's so heartbreaking when people don't go to their events because they put in so much time, so much work. So you shouldn't have a requirement. You should go because you want to go. Furthermore, I get, Michaela, your point about like having like a place to see it all, and I get you guys are busy. So are we. And we still figure out when the events are, what the events are, and what's happening. You're going to hang around in the org suite, you're going to hang around in the park, you're going to hang around in the flow. You're going to hear about the events happening. This flow marketing team posts all the events for the week at the beginning of the week. Look at the marketing team, or look at this flow Instagram, see what the events are. You shouldn't need some additional resource to help you figure out what the events are. You should just know what they are. And if you don't, that's completely fine. But put in that effort, because then we're going to be more willing to put in the effort to communicate with you guys. But like, don't require senators to go to events because that's just going to be another thing you guys have to do, and you guys aren't going to have fun at our events. Like, I hope that we see all of you at all of our spring events, but obviously that's not going to happen. You all have things to do, but put in the effort. Go to K-Off, go to Hop the Block, go to those events, and show that you want to support your fellow orgs. Because then it kind of honestly goes back to creating that hierarchy of Senate's better because you're required to go to our events. Go to our events because you want to.
Luke, I'm sorry. Do you want a point of information? Or do you want to be on the speakers list? I have you on the speakers list. Or
I don't know. I've been trying to talk.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I had you on the speakers list, but you can do a point of information if you like. Go ahead.
Okay. So I wasn't planning on talking about this, but the thing about the reports, I don't know, just as the person representing the Hawks Herald, I feel like it could be the most beautifully written report in the world, and we would get the exact same amount of people showing up. I mean, I can count. I mean, Joe, oh, he's not here.
He went to.
All right. I've gone to all of our events, obviously, for the Hawks Herald, and I don't remember seeing most, if not any of you there. I mean, it just feels like Jared brought up, feeling like a child. Like the Hawks Herald, is all the ones definitely up there. And again, you know, it's different. It's not the same, just a club, and you know, it's a newspaper. But still, I feel like if senators were required to go to 2 meetings a semester, neither of them would be on time unless they were required to. I mean, Joe is our rep, and he doesn't even follow our Instagram. It's just, it's not just Joe. It just feels like weird here too, and it's like.
I have on the speakers list. I didn't know you wanted to do a point before that. My apologies. Anyone else want to offer a point of information? Because I saw a few people. Jules, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you want events in a list, I think it's probably pretty easy to alter it in the form. You guys just like add a little section there. I could like copy and paste our events, like then you guys can just take it from there.
I'm sure the people for the open debate topic will be taking that down. I will continue on the speakers list. Adam.
So a few points. With the change to Directors Council away from XCon, I know that's been a big shift. It's been a shift for myself, kind of chairing that to no longer chairing that and kind of that direction. So please feel free to share after the meeting or just send me an email or a message about if that's effective for your group, because that's how we get that feedback, and then we can take that to Carol, or we can have a full discussion with student programs and leadership about that, because traditionally XCon was all about supporting the organizations and talking about those shared experiences with retention and recruitment issues, with issues surrounding org retreats. And that was kind of lost 3 years ago. So that might have been where some of that kind of friction with not having XCon and now Directors Council is coming from. So definitely more than happy to work on that with any of the orgs or anyone in the audience here. The other thing is,
we love XCon and whatever it's going to be. We love it. We love it. It's a little support group. We love it. Great job.
Good job.
So with that, one of the other kind of constant battles is sustainability. And we know that so many of org leaders, both senators and non-senators, from advocacy groups to IRHA to campus programming orgs, all struggle with the same issue of sustainability. And I think that this conversation here, we need to look at it through a sustainable mindset, because how many of us are not returning next year, metaphorically? And that's really where we can have requirements, we can have things on paper, we can have it in our bylaws, but until there's a commitment from all of us that we're going to support each other honestly, it's just words on a piece of paper. And I think that we have to come about it through the lens of how is this sustainable for today, for tomorrow, and for the next year? Because as the person that coordinates the org reps, I hear the frustrations from both the senators and the org members. Like, it's a process that there's improvements that can be made, and I'm taking note as we go, but there's definitely improvements, but I think a lot of it stems from sustainability. And I think that we have to have an honest conversation, not only as orgs, but also as part of student programs, leadership and orientation and housing, about how we're fostering that sustainable mindset for org leaders.
Would have been great. Are you done?
Yeah.
I just want to ask, because I'm going to be honest, I've been all over the place the last few weeks. Have all of the orgs received an email from the Sustainability Council? No? Okay.
You got your emails back. We'll answer. Yeah, we're fine.
Okay, all right. I just want to double check. I'll make sure to put on my list to connect with everyone. We've been having trouble also trying to get response back from some of the orgs. If you can double check, make sure, because I think the only org that was kind of around with IRJ. If I haven't, let me know. We literally reached out to like 14 people, and I want to make sure those partnerships are created. Again, retention, recruitment, and how our orgs and Senate works is a sustainability issue in and of itself. So I want to make sure that that connection is created so everyone has a place to share their issues regarding retention and recruitment, and that's fostered through the sustainability channel of Student Senate.
Point of inquiry?
I'm gonna go with Mike first, just because he had his hand out, and then I'll go to you.
All right. I just had a quick question about XCon, or now the Directors Council is called. Sure. How many times does Directors Council meet each academic year?
I can answer that one for you.
I'm just curious.
That wasn't sassy. I wasn't trying to be sassy. I was just trying to answer. I sit on there. Well, we and anyone else in the audience, like Senior, anyone, feel free to answer. We met once this semester, and once last semester. And that's about it. Yeah. That's about it for the full year. Twice this whole year. Yes. Yeah.
Point of information.
Sure.
So the original intent when XCon was formed in the fall semester as XCon was monthly meetings. We kind of discussed bi-weekly versus monthly. Under Director's Council, the intent is that it's called by the Director of Student Programs, Leadership and Orientation whenever she feels it's needed. But that's a conversation that can be had at the next meeting about timing and all.
I will go for the point of
Oh, yeah. Is he, when did he possibly send something like that a month ago?
I'm just going to go over here and we'll just just so we don't have so many points of increase and stuff.
Oh, okay. Wait, right, that I tried
Point of order.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to listen to the thing. We'll discuss it. Fine.
Trying to get you.
Just trying to save the points back. So it's easier.
Okay. I'm gonna go on the speakers list. You can direct off of. After anyone's speaking turn. Allie.
So a few things. I think a lot of what I was going to say has been said, but something that stuck out to me earlier in this conversation was about office hours, and just sitting in the office was something that was said, as opposed to like, I think it's all in how we utilize our time. I think with the current secretary and what they have imposed with like the check-ins after our office hour isn't to give us extra work. I think it's to like obviously serve as a check for ourselves. If we go through our office hour and we're finding that we are not putting enough information or struggling to find information to put in our little like, oh, this is what I did during my office hour. I think we as senators, it speaks that we need to use our time wisely as student leaders. I think it speaks to time management as well. I think in terms of, back to the question, what are the best ways to strengthen the connection between the Senate and its organizations? I think it's using our time that's designated to us as senators, focus on Senate work, like use our office hours. Yeah, we are social and we're all friends and we use it a lot of time to like catch up with one another. But I think the reason why we're struggling with time is because I think we sit in the office and we are doing a lot of great work, but I think it's like we really need to focus on our time. And I think it's just time management is something that we need to work on as well. And I think it's the attitude we go about going to events. Something that was previously said by someone in the audience is like we should want to go to events. It shouldn't, to me, the conversation sounds like we're coming up with legislation and things to make like write things on a piece of paper, but it's like, why should it be a job to go to an event? As a student leader and as a senator, I sit here and I'm like, oh, like, this is great, we're having conversations, but at the end of the day, I don't go to my room and like, now I have to go to an event just to show my face. It's like, I want to go to an event because I pay all this money to go here, all these fun events are fun. And it's like, I build relationships and I have these activities and it's like, keeps you busy, it keeps things going. It's like, ooh, I did all my homework. I'm gonna, instead of scroll through my phone on TikTok, I'm gonna go plant something, or I'm gonna go paint a bag, or I'm gonna have some hot chocolate and just vibe with other org leaders. And I think it's like, to me, it seems like the attitude in which we go about things is just something that we need to change about ourselves and as student leaders. We shouldn't sit around the table and think of this as a job or as something that we need to write down. We shouldn't have to write down how to communicate. I think we as student leaders should work internally on communicating and through training and through the seminars and things like that. It's like we should take away things. And honestly, with the list of like events and things like that, I think it goes to show like getting to know our chairs or our org members that sit on these meetings. If you want to get to know them too, I think it's like they present us with a report, but there's nothing stopping you from going to the perch, going to their org, like literally after a meeting in the library, like pulling them aside and being like, hey, like, you feel this event that I missed something, and where's the meeting? Like, I think it's just, we need to just have conversations and not make it seem like a job to have communication. Just like go to the event, have a good time. If you can't make it, just try again next time. But I think it's just like take a deep breath. I think is what we need to do.
Would you like to direct, Luke?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Point.
Sure.
So I love that. After the meeting's over, we have Matt's, about finance. But I can't do that because we don't meet tonight, but normally the hot sale will be meeting in about 60 minutes. So a lot of times I don't even get to say my report and I have to go over there and meeting. So I just simply stay the whole meeting. So I would like to do that. That would be the fun. But it's just time to do that.
But no, it's not. I just continue speaking. I think even just like not even just meeting after the fact, because I know we go later anyway. But I think it's just like you meet someone, you see their face. It's like on campus, it's like around, or even just like, you have everybody's emails on Rockland, because like that's like using your resources and then I mean, like really like what you said. I didn't get to ask you this question. Like, can we talk? Can we chat? I think it's just I think it's just I see someone you want to get lunch sometime. Like it's I think it's just natural. I know sometimes talking is hard, but I know. Yeah.
There's a lot going on right now. Kyle, would you like a point of information? Inquiry?
Yeah.
Sure. Nah, point of information is good. Yeah.
I think also like office hours are a great way to stop by. We have all of our office hours, like when someone is in the office, like you'll see mine it's 10 a.m. on Mondays. Yeah, Mondays. Yeah, 10 a.m. on Mondays. So you can, if you're wondering about K-Off or if you're wondering about our next getaway trip, like you can come to the office 10 a.m. on Mondays and you can stop by and like chit chat with me. Or even just like table times. If you see me at a table time, like feel free to stop by and learn about like what we're talking about. I think that's other ways we can interact with other board members.
All right, I'll continue on to the speakers list.
Kind of going off of what other previous senators and organizers have said, that mostly going on with like how Senate is perceived by many of the orgs and how Senate sees the org and the org sees Senate, it's mostly that there is a strict divide because of like so many years of just like Senate does their own thing, orgs do their own thing, and we kind of just like let it happen. But like this is like the time and like the future of Senate where we can like just come together and work as one, because we're just not like all separate orgs. Like we all work collectively together. We all co-sport with each other. We all want to go to each other's events. We all want to like help each other out and grow as an org community and as a campus in general. And going on to another point where the org reps is that every org likes to have something different from their org reps, and every org rep likes to have something different from their org. So mostly like in my time being ICC's org rep, I've kind of like just like figured out how like to go away, because the first time, like the first like month of my time on ICC's meetings, it was like very procedural. It was like, okay, just explain everything and just kind of like stay silent, do nothing, just watch and observe. But like the more time go on, you kind of like start like involving yourself a lot more with the orgs, to the point where you're just like maybe they don't want like every single thing procedurally, and like maybe you just like tailor your own org report to how like they best communicate with each other, and seeing how each member of their own org give their report, you kind of tailor your own report to the same way. So it kind of gives that way of fluidity to every single aspect of it. So that's like one thing that I want to see in the future of org reps. Also, this thing about like one senator taking on many orgs, it kind of just like messes up like their head and just like, okay, I need to do this thing for this org, do this for this org. If you have just one senator, one org, then it's like, okay, they expect something from me, I expect something from them. We both can work together to get that the same way. And if you do multiple orgs at the same time, then you kind of just get confused and get caught up in the weeds and all that. And then I agree, we shouldn't be forcing other senators and other members of Senate to go to an event. They should be, if they have time, if they're free, go to the event and like pop in for like a good 15-minute talk with a couple org members, talk with a couple students that are there, and maybe participate in some of the games. Also, free food, so it's a win-win. Kind of just like get to know each other, just like talk to each other, kind of just like, hey, how's it going? Like, how are you doing? Like, how are your classes? Okay, that's great. I'm gonna go continue walking around your event. I'll see you later. Bye. Walk, go back, see what else is there. It's like that kind of little things that like the orgs pick up on, and it kind of like gives them the appreciation of like, hey, it shows that they care, and it's not like they want you to like continue to experience what else is on campus, and kind of like that. Also, it's funny that Kyle brought up the thing about having the office hours on their door. I actually took a photo of it at the beginning of the semester so I could like go in there. And every time I like go in there, I'm just like in the Senate office. I just go and I just get up and say, I'm gonna go bother ICC for a little bit, and then I walk over and see who's in the office. It's just like to make like casual conversation, just like go over there and say like, hey, how's it going? How are you doing? Is there anything you need help with? And then we kind of just get talking about campus, talk about like internal affairs, talk about like casual sports or something, whatever. It's just like creating that bond and that rapport with the orgs that really like connects with the orgs. It kind of like appreciates you like being a part of these organizations. That really like helps you out, kind of like weave your way around like, everything. And like gives you like that kind of communication between them that like also helps you with like other things like, okay, there's these things that these orgs need, there's these things that other orgs need. And these are some concerns that I brought up, and then you discuss it with senators, and then we get debate topics like this one. So it's like that kind of thing. So it's just kind of like saying it out there, kind of just like agreeing to what everyone else has said.
Ashley was first. Yeah, if I can direct that. I think that's your point about the office hours and being able to take a picture of that sheet and go and book ICC and know who's going to be there. I think that's also something that all the orgs should expect from Senate as well. I know in past years it has been done, but posting when each senator has office hours. So if someone has a question for the Close and Org Chair, they can look at our office hour sheet and be like, oh, this is going to be there at this time and this time, and know that when they go to the office, they're going to see that person, to ask that person specific questions. Because if we are not making ourselves accessible to the rest of the student body, and especially our orgs, then there's no way we're going to be able to build that connection and strengthen that connection if we're not being there for them. And even if we don't have a bulletin board anymore, but just like posting them outside of the office in the bulletin board, putting them on our Instagram story, so that way people know when we're available. But then also, like, that I'll speak my personal experience. Last semester as PR chair, I wanted to post about the office hours and when people had them, but the issue was every single week someone was changing when their office hour was. And so just internally, we need to be consistent and recognize that even though you might be changing your office hour constantly to make it better suit your schedule, you also need to recognize that by you constantly making these changes is impacting everyone else by making it more difficult for them to come see you. So just internally reflecting and recognizing that I need to remain consistent with what my office hour is, so that when other people know that they can come see me at that time, I think it's something that Senate can internally reflect on as well.
How is information?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I posted.
Point of information.
Wait, they were.
They were posted last year.
They
have not been posted since last year.
What's inside
though? Sure.
So you guys know how we have to fill out the office, check out and ask questions. One of the questions being, did anyone outside the office come in like any non-senators? And I don't know if you can sort of hint towards this information. You know how often, as all of us being on Senate, how often someone outside of Senate comes into the office? I guess I'm proposing this question to the secretary. Like just sort of.
Yeah, you want to
Can you just repeat your question?
So on the office sign out sheet, one of the questions sort of states who comes into the office, both senators and non-senators. And I guess you're not gonna have a definitive answer to this, but you know how often maybe you see like a name being coming into the office outside.
So to direct to that, one thing that e-board has been really looking at with those responses, and I know I've been relaying that back to Internal Affairs VP, is the fact that there are not that many that is showing that response. I mean, there's a few, I'm not saying that there's a lot, but there's not an abundance of people coming into the office. And I think that's where the problem stems from, is how are we making ourselves more accessible to the student body as well as to our org leaders. And I think that's what kind of the conversation has been, and where we're kind of going into a new direction, going into SS49. I mean, there are those outliers who will stop by and say, you know, I need to see your portraits. I mean, we had during that week, we had a lot of people coming into the office, but on a given week, and I think that's where the problem stems from.
For that information.
Yeah. So.
For information, one thing I have seen a lot is not people filling out that external people are coming to Senate to visit the office, but there's a lot of times people are filling out saying that other senators are in the office during their office hours, and then not being able to say what work they are productively doing when they're in the office together.
Allie?
I thought the question was always, are you working together on the work? Like when the senators are in the office, are you working together? So I always say that everyone else work on their own thing.
I'm gonna move on to the speakers list just so we can skip follow on.
So
Allie?
I have quite a few things. I don't even know where to start. Speaking of this culture, hierarchy, whatever that people are feeling or saying that it's here, I've been on Senate for 4 years. That feeling, I think I've heard from people quite a bit. And I think that it's on people around the table to change practices and deconstruct that. And I hope that it actually happens. And it's been on me too. I've done my best. I know it's one person and it's up to a group. It's on everybody that's been knocking. It's on everybody that's around this table to do a culture shift. It's not on one person. It's not on two people. It's on a group. We have like very vague outlines of things to do. The orgs do, we do. It's not the like things that we have outlined. Other schools have the same stuff that we do. All their orgs come to their meetings. They have assignments to do clubs and orgs. We have a clubs and orgs committee. We have club check-ins. We have org rep, and they have open sessions. Sure, we can do those, but like our structures aren't the problem. It's the way that we're utilizing structures. So that's something that we can change, or rather not me, I'm graduating. Senate 49 can change as we're going into the next year with our new org leaders. What's it called? In regards to like, I think this point was rather on like going to events and stuff. We should not be going to events as senators, as this primarily audience said. We should be going to them as students. We cannot advocate for students that might be having different concerns and stuff like that. If we're not talking to students, and we can talk to students by going to events that other orgs put on. So yeah, maybe go to the event as a student, but if one student is complaining to you about like, oh my God, I hate this or whatever, like, oh my gosh, great idea, let's do something about it. That doesn't mean you have to be in Senate mode. You shouldn't necessarily have modes. Like you don't necessarily need that. Maybe that means like a training session at winter retreat or whatever retreat, like about how to intermingle those things. That's up to the next Senate to do. Have fun with that. Directors Council, nowhere does it say anywhere that any of the org leaders can't just meet up to talk about your conjoined issues. If everybody's having like an issue, just meet up. Carol doesn't have to be there. Carol doesn't have to be there. Just meet up. Let's be honest. I love Carol, but Carol doesn't have to be there. Love you. Love you. Carol doesn't have to be there. Office hours point, they're supposed to be used to do open debate topics, legislation, and committee work. If you're just sitting there doing homework, you're not doing your job as a senator. You're not. So feel like that needed to be said. Event list, there's HawkLink, there's social media. You shouldn't be asking for another list of events, just use your resources. And senators taking on multiple orgs, again, that goes back to our bylaws and whatever, but that's something that can be changed. That's something that can be changed. And I encourage it to be changed.
Gotcha.
Sure.
Thank you. Wait a second, or I'm going to get this.
that's unlegible, but anyway. So going off of that culture shift, as we will be having a later conversation with the bills that come up. We need the culture shift that needs to happen can only happen if certain things that we have been avoiding for years are finally talked about, such as the dress code. And for whatever reason, we refuse to change the dress code to something more approachable, using technology and things like that. And for whatever reason, we're really digging our heels into these things. And in order to change the culture, those things need to change. And why they keep getting put off, I literally couldn't tell you. Also, I think an issue is that senators need to know their resources, to use those resources. So I am not somebody that uses Instagram. That's a killer here. So I think something that we should do is have it be an expectation of senators to have an Instagram just to hear from orgs, and we can have a list of the orgs' Instagrams, go follow them. So that way,
point of information, you can just use hop on.
But whatever we need to do to be able to do it. Just go follow their Instagrams, be like, have like a set time at like like the retreat, and be like, all right, everyone take 20 minutes, go follow all these clubs, orgs, follow the clubs that you represent and follow the orgs. So because either that or you just like get them organically, and I feel like some people just don't end up getting on the Instagram. And so I think that's another problem, like in like the slow Instagram and all that. I don't know. That's something that maybe needs to be done. I am just trying to put forward like different things that we could do to try to get over this hump here. Because I genuinely don't even know what else to suggest at this point. So I think this is an issue for SS49, but something needs to be done. So if it's any of these, that's great. If this sparks a different idea, that's also great. If we figure out how to use our resources, that's amazing. I think we'll definitely be talking about the elitism, taking ourselves too seriously, and approachability later on tonight. And I really hope that it finally gets taken seriously, because as we can hear from the clubs, it's an issue.
Point of personal privilege, how many people do you have on these speakers?
One.
Okay.
Go.
The Instagram thing, I'm not gonna lie to you, is part of that's creating the hierarchy. You guys are required to create Instagrams and follow the org. Just interact with the orgs in whatever way you feel like you can best interact with the orgs. You should. I also don't think it's allowed to create Instagrams for that, but just like don't. That's my one. But I would recommend. I do think if you guys go into 49. Right, that's next year. Yeah. If you go into that with open minds and with wanting to create good connections with people, we're open to creating good connections. I don't want to speak for the other orgs, but I know CDM, you would be more than happy to create strong connections with you guys. If that's something that we all go into next year, not just you guys, like also the org, go into next year.
And I just want to talk about the reporting that everyone's saying that reporting is ineffective. There's a reason why we have minutes. We can refer back to them if we missed a point. It is put in the minutes. They write their reports. They send it in. We can read back to it. Yes, there's also that they happened that week. It's also said that you can talk to your chairs. And Jordan also says if they're not there, email them. They're not that difficult to get into contact with. And we should try, if we really want to go to events, literally just try to email them. They're not that difficult to find. And we all know their locations and stuff like that. And also for meeting them in their office hours, we can also put, now I may be wrong about this, but we can put in our checkout form, what Senate work did you do? I went to go visit somebody in an organization, that's Senate work, to talk to them about X, Y, and Z. We can put that in our reports. I just think overall that we need to start, like the hierarchy thing, we need to realize that every single person here is human. We're all human beings. We're no better than each other. We are all communities that want to support each other at the end of the day. If there's a feeling of hierarchy, we need to do something as people to be like, these are not people that we're above. These people are our colleagues, our friends. And we should try to work with them more rather than just be the people that, here's some money, we'll give you a quick Instagram shout out, have fun with your event.
I have a direct, I agree with that. Like the hierarchy needs to end, but it comes from internally. Like I think our e-board has done a fantastic job about, especially with like our vice president, planning these dinners to have the senators come together and like having that once a month thing, even if it is once a month, these types of things are very important. And like, it starts with support like this. Like, this is great. Like high five all around here. And it goes around the table too. Everybody, we're all, and I'm gonna say it, we're all a family. And I believe we all do a fantastic job. It starts, I wanted to thank you. Wait, Blair? And all of our orgs, how like jealous I am of you right there that you have a student like organization leader sitting on your committee. Come join academic affairs, man. And like it goes to me too. Like I'm gonna start myself. Like it starts as a chair. Like it starts like from anybody. Like this culture change, this kind of thing. Like I want to end on a positive note, and that's my goal here. And we all like. I know I'm obviously not on the speakers list, and this is probably a huge violation, but we all obviously, you guys obviously like point it direct. Like sometimes I don't even know what that means. This is my first open debate topic ever. My first time ever producing something to bring to the Senate floor. I had Ali DFAB work around the clock with me and Alex on making this work. And the feedback that you guys gave is exactly what I wanted to hear. So like looking through these notes, looking through these things, I think we can go forward into next Senate. And like even now, like better than before. And I just appreciate it. And thank you all.
Point of information.
Sure.
Since I know we're kind of running past time and speakers list is closed and all, if there's other comments from senators or org members, we can make a Google form to share those additional comments and relay that back to Senate and such too.
Let's close this open discussion.
Second.
I'm gonna veto that real quick. Go ahead. Add one more point.
And then I would also, if you guys want to email it out to us, I mean, I have no problem sharing that with my org, and I'm sure that the other reps also have no problem sharing with their org. And then that way you guys get real information that you can actually use without like your
Yeah. Thank you. All right, now let's set motions.
Second.
All those in favor of closing this open discussion topic? All those abstentions?
Close open discussion.
Second.
All those in favor of closing open discussion? All opposed? Second. Open discussion is now closed. And I commemorate everyone for using some real great, probably pro in the audience. Y'all have really learned. It took me a year. Y'all are doing a great job. All right, moving forward.
Meeting time to 10:30.
Second. Yeah. All those in favor of foregoing the meeting time? All those opposed? Abstentions. Meeting time is now forgone. Now moving into open floor for the student body. I'll start with org reports, and we're going to go with IRHA.
Excellent.
Hello.
Everyone, happy Monday. I hope everyone had a relaxing Easter with your friends and family. So last Tuesday, our General Assembly voted to donate $1,000 to the March Memorial Scholarship and $500 to the Tony Montecasco Emergency Fund. And we also voted on and approved a constitutional amendment allowing for impeachment of IRHA e-board and Hall Council e-board. So looking forward to meeting with clubs and orgs soon to confirm that. And Hall Council award packets were also sent out to each Hall Council for the End of the Year awards, which will be announced at the Department of Residence Life and Housing banquet. Elections will be taking place next week, 26th, for e-board. And your moose fact of the week is that bear spray can be failed to moose due to their respiration rate.
Any questions for IRHA?
Right.
This is such a weird question. Do you guys still do this for like MOLO?
Yep.
Okay, this is a question. Like,
If you are always the Moose Alley.
Any other questions for Jared?
Love.
All right, moving on to MSU. Oh, do you have a report?
We do. Osai says hello and good evening, everyone. I'm sadly not going to be able to tonight since MSU will be playing a API now. Playing tonight, but it's shaping us to be awesome. Other than that, we have our Earth Day event on Wednesday, April 20th, as part of our RWE Reps Earth Fest event. We announced the MSU elections at our last GM meeting, and again, we will officially hold our elections on April 26th.
Any questions for MSU? Email their reports, count or just ask. Moving on to CDM.
Hello, everyone. Who is so excited for my report?
Yeah.
Okay. First, I would like to preface that this is probably the most fun thing I have ever attended. So great job, Matt. Great job on your own week topic. Okay, so who is excited for spring week?
Yeah.
Thank you, Zoe. Okay, so tickets for the spring concert went on sale today. They can be purchased through university tickets, and they're $15. So make sure you get them before they're gone. And then tickets for our Red Sox getaway go on sale this Friday afternoon. The game is on May 4th, and we will be leaving the restaurant at 4:30. Tickets are $5 and include coach bus, transportation, a ticket to the game, and a $15 food voucher. There's only about 80 tickets. We have in the past sold out in 2 minutes. So if you're interested in going, I would definitely recommend getting on university tickets early and buying your tickets right at noon. And then I know this was a discussion, but I'm going to go through this very event because we are so proud of it. Okay. Ask as many questions as you want, please. So on Monday, 4:25 from 1 to 2, it's making waves. So we'll be having bungee trampolines, a rock wall, and a mechanical shark, as well as Clementine's ice cream, which is like scooped ice cream. Some of the flavors we're getting is mint chip, black raspberry, cookie dough, and the other one's still up for discussion. On Tuesday at 8 p.m. in the GHH Atrium, is a karaoke beach lounge. Come show off your singing skills and enjoy sushi, mocktails, and more. We're hoping to have pina coladas and strawberry daiquiris. And then on Wednesday at 8 on the GHH lawn is Rodney and Tropical Escape. We'll be having a student DJ. If anyone knows DJ Mark the Shark, he is hopefully going to be our DJ. We will also be having different crafts and activities. There's a duck pond where you can win game like prizes, as well as Kona Ice. So we hope to see you there. On Thursday, 4/28, 8 p.m. is the spring concert with Bryce Vine, Social House, and Olivia Knox. We will see all of you there. Everyone's coming to the spring concert. That is a requirement. Thank you so much. And then on Friday, there's so many events, guys. On Friday from 2 to 5 is Quad Fest. This is the comeback of Quad Fest. It's gonna be a big thing. We'll be having a mechanical surfboard and then flat waves, the bowls. I believe you guys worked with ICC for your first year social. You guys got flat waves for that. Yes. But we're getting the both this time. It's gonna be super good. And then Black Dog Donuts, which is a donut food truck. And then there's a bunch of different I think there's 4 different kinds of it, so you're gonna have to come find out. There's so much information. Final communion is at 8 p.m. on Friday night. We have Chris Red, who is, if you're so lucky that we have him, we're getting incognito as well as soft pretzels, and they'll be Shirley temples. On Saturday, from 2 to 6 on Lot D, Lot 30, we'll be having carnival rides such as bumper cars, the roundup, and the scrambler. We will also be having Dell's Lemonade Twisted Tea bread cones, which is like bread cones with like mac and cheese in them. And Spike's Junkyard Dogs if you're a hot dog fan. And then to wrap up spring week, on Saturday night at 8 p.m., we'll be having a fireworks show on the GHH lawn. There will also be Pilates ice cream. And then obviously keep the fun going by going to the Red Sox getaway. Once again, tickets on sale Friday. We look forward to seeing all of you at our spring week events. Make sure to stop by our table times all next week from 11 to 2 to get some promotional items. I'll give you guys a secret. Our promotional items for spring week are bucket hats, spray sunscreen, beach balls, and beach towels.
Wow. I need a beach towel.
Pretty cool. Give me 1 second. And then we're also selling spring week shirts. We're selling tank tops, short sleeve shirts for $5, and then long sleeve shirts for $10. The designs are super cute. When you see the shirts, make sure to thank Shannon, our side chair. She did a great job. And those are also going to be sold on university tickets next week. And then Miriam, our outreach chair, emailed all the orgs about working or about volunteering at block parties. If your org is interested, please reply to Miriam with the name of your interested members, the hours that you can help. We're asking, if possible, for 4 members to work a 1-hour shift. If your org did not get that email, please let me know. And we'll make sure to send you that to everyone. It should have gone to your org emails. If not, I'll double check with her that she sent them to all of you guys. But we'd love to see you at block party. Okay. Any questions about first week?
Okay. Okay, keep your hand out, Allie.
How does one get a bucket?
You just have to go to the table time from 11 to 2. We're gonna like, they're free. Everything's free except for the shirts, spring concert, and the Red Sox getaway. Everything else is free. But we're gonna limit like per hour how much people waste so we don't like run out of stuff. So I would go like at the beginning of the hour.
What day are you giving those away?
Monday through Friday, 11 to 2. In the comments.
This week?
Next week. Yes. Starting 4/25.
Be there, be square.
Mike.
Won't be around.
Hi, Sydney. I have a question.
What's up, Mike?
So you said something about trampolines and bungee
Yes.
jumping?
Okay.
What is that?
That is Making Waves. That is our daytime event on Monday from 11 to 2 on the Common Squad. We have bungee trampolines. You know those things that you see in like Florida, where they're big trampolines and you like get hooked in. And then a rock wall and a mechanical shark.
I'm gonna try and be there.
Not bungee jumping.
Darn it. Michaela?
I'm so sorry. Hang on, it's right there. When is?
It is on May 4th. We would be leaving the rec center at 4:30. That's a Wednesday. If you're a Star Wars fan, that is also going to be like their Star Wars.
May the 4th be with you.
Yeah. So that is just...
Ashley?
How are sales going for spring concert?
I do not know because I have not seen Drill today. But if you ask me tomorrow, maybe I'll ask him before I see you.
Maybe.
Fine. I have a Zoom.
Who are the songs playing on the floor?
The Angels.
Mm.
I
Oh yeah.
think so much.
Izzy.
First and foremost, I need to chat with you about Hawk the Block.
Oh, no, that's WQRI.
WQRI. Who emailed me to volunteer?
Oh, block party.
Block party. I'm sorry. We have to talk offline about that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And second of all,
I got you. Let's talk about an event.
Yes, 429. What were the events? Hold on. The karaoke event. That's at 8 p.m. at GHH on Tuesday.
Yes.
I'm gonna be there.
There's sushi. It's gonna be cool.
I love karaoke. I will literally sing every
We're getting a DJ. His name's Big Bill.
I love that.
It's kind of weird, but it's gonna be cool.
No, it's cool. So the spring concert, what time on Thursday?
It starts at 8 p.m. Doors open at 7:30, and there's usually a line. Cool. And if you work in SPLO, you'll be working in them.
Okay. And I think it's Friday. What's Friday?
Friday we have Quad Fest, which is from 2 to 5, and then the final.
Cool, thanks.
Jared?
How late is your karaoke event?
It should be 8 to 10.
Oh, yes. I won't, sorry.
Yeah, we better see there, Jared.
I'll try to make it. We've got elections that day.
Can you put me on the list first for karaoke?
You'll have to talk to Miriam. Oh, also the karaoke beach lunch. I should put this in my report. It's our Costco barbershop. We're super excited to be working with them.
Okay, cool. Any other questions for CN? All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. No, that was good. Moving on to ICC.
All right, hello everyone. My report is not that long. It says hello to everyone. She's on spring break for student teaching these days. So this is a very busy week for ICC, so we need all the org support that we can get. So this Wednesday is our commencement fair. So for any seniors in the room, if you purchase your commencement ball ticket, please come to GHG on Wednesday so you can pick your table. We're also going to have a food truck at commencement fair. Then we also have a bunch of tables. You can make like hair appointments, nail appointments, all of that stuff. So make sure it is 4 to 6 in GHH. On that same day, our juniors are also having their pretzel fundraiser. So in the food support them, it could be $3 for a pretzel. They have a salty pretzel, and then they have like a cinnamon, like sugar pretzel. So make sure you purchase one. And then big thing, this Friday we have cake off. So if you have not signed up, please do so ASAP. You can make your team on university tickets. Your team can consist of 2 to 6 people. And then there's going to be 3 different prizes. There's one for like the most unique cake, one for like the overall cake, and one that's the best fitting with the theme. So the theme this year is going to be birthday parties because it goes with the charity that we chose, which is the Confetti Foundation. The Confetti Foundation plans birthday parties for kids who are in the hospital. So if you want to help support their mission, you should enter Takeoff, enter a team. I know I emailed all the organizations here. Let's see what else. And then the day after, we have our alumni event. So that's Saturday, the 23rd. We have a bunch of big names coming to speak for our General Assembly. A few of them, Haley Watt, Michaela Bertoletti, Mark Lubin. So they'll be coming the next day to chit chat with us so that we can network and catch up. But that is everything for ICC.
Woo! Right.
Hi, Kyle. I have a takeoff question.
Yeah, what's up?
When is the deadline for team making?
So we're trying to make the deadline Thursday by like 5 p.m. So if you make a Senate team, make sure you do so for
Bet.
Izzy?
I'm sorry. What time is the kickoff event on Friday?
It's gonna be 7 to 10 p.m. in the field house.
That's spicy. Thank you.
And then we're also selling confetti popcorn there. So all the money we raise from the popcorn, from the event, and all the other foundations we have will support the Confetti Foundation.
Oh, thanks. Any other questions for ICC? All right, moving into Hawks. Oh, go ahead. Oh, okay. Your report.
We do. Luke says hi. I hope you all had a good week. Our next issue comes out on Thursday, the 21st. We will have a table at Hawk the Block, and we will be making paper crafts out of it.
Any questions? Please email Hawks Herald. Saga, your report.
Sophie says, happy Monday, and I hope everyone enjoyed the holiday weekend. The HawkLink application forms are open for anyone running for e-board for next semester. All positions except for treasurer are open. We're accepting applications until Wednesday, April 27th, and voting will take place at our GM meeting that day. We're looking forward to having a tie-dye table at WQRI's Hawk the Block event this Saturday. We're also in the process of planning a group outing for current and soon-to-be members of eBoard. Thank you.
Any questions for Saga? Email them. And last but not least, WQRI.
Hi guys. So we mentioned it, but we have the block coming up this weekend, Saturday, April 23rd at 4 o'clock, right up to the rec center. Please come visit us. We have a food truck. We have 4 tables coming. We have live music, Dylan Chambers, and we have 2 student bands. We have band Hop Soup, Chichi's band. They have a bunch of different members who do different things. Medium, but only some of them go back to medium. And then we have Monty performing. Really exciting. So I hope to see you guys all there. I'll be there. The whole world will be there. So that's really exciting. We sent out our POA, everything. So, and yeah, we also made a playlist for Carol Appreciation. So if you guys have any songs that you would like on there, you can email them to me or to WQRI, and I'll put them on the playlist for Carol.
That is so cute.
Carol.
That is so cute.
Yes. Come to Hop the Block. See you all there.
Sydney.
I have 2 questions. Yeah. So you might say this. What's the food truck? Oh, it's the corn one. I don't really know it. And then after you guys finish the playlist, can you guys send it out? I think that's so funny. Yeah. Wait, how do we do those songs? You can email them.
We only buy from Carol.
Hey, right.
I think it was 12-4 on Saturday, but I'm not sure.
What's the name of the song?
Any other questions for WQRI? All right, moving on to advisor report.
I'll figure it out.
Hi, Blair.
Hey, tonight.
Hi.
I hope everyone's doing well. I know the semester's wrapping up. I think you could tell from the conversation earlier. Everyone's a little stressed. There's a lot going on. I hope you're all taking the time to take care of yourselves. Basically, SS48 is wrapping up, so everyone take it in, enjoy it. Any bills and things, get it in because it's not happening otherwise.
Motion to forego Report, Senate report.
All those in favor for going? Everything. All opposed. I'm kidding, not everything. All reports.
Motion to open old business.
Second. All those in favor of opening old business? All those opposed? Abstention. All right, we're now on old business. Any pieces of legislation? Joe. Firework leader.
Take off. I'm done.
Take off. You got ragged. 6 people. 6 is the maximum. 2 to 6 is the team. Take off. What do you mean you can't?
Point of order.
Yeah. No. I don't think so. Joe?
Introducing SS48-106, a bill amending Article 6, Section 16 and 17 of the Student Senate bylaws for a regular consideration.
Would you like to elaborate?
Yes, I would. Basically, bylaw review committee moved these 2 sections to, I think this is the right bill. They moved it over to Article 5. I'd like to yield to Allie for Article 2. I'll open the floor for discussion.
I can speak more on it. These 2 sections talk about Senate requirements and representatives, and it's in the clubs and org section. And since Article 2 talks about Senate standard operating procedures, we thought it belonged more to Article 2. So there's another bill on the floor tonight that literally has this exact same information in it, but it's for Article 2. So this is just taking it out of Article 6.
Yeah. Any questions?
Motion to call this bill.
Second. All in favor of calling this bill to question? All opposed? Abstentions. This bill's not being called to question.
Adam Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Domian?
Yes.
LaFontaine?
Yes.
Yes.
Brian Crow?
Yes.
Ali Shump? Yes. Matt Tilley?
Yes.
Mackenzie Morgan?
Yes.
Jason Regan?
Yes.
Josh O'Gara?
Yes.
Isabel Boulder? Louise Duarte?
Yes.
Ashley Reyes?
Yes.
Riley Veeder? Fiona Dolan? Michaela Abt?
Yes.
Joe Pistoli?
Yes.
Alexandra Robbins?
Yes.
Kira Shimlin? Stephen Nelson?
Wait, I have just one question. Where did it got moved to Article 2, or did it get moved to the the club and org schedule?
Article 2. Bill passes.
All right. What is next on the agenda for old business? Oh, hi Zach, go ahead.
Introducing SF48-107,
Would you like to elaborate?
So as you can see, that this is really just fixing up the class charters. So you can see that Class B is outlined in the first portion, striking some of the stuff that was originally in, which was under club sport requirements. So we're just kind of keeping it consistent with the class charter definition. We originally outlined last week. Then same situation, we're striking athletic club.
Anyone for the speaker's list?
Second.
All in favor of calling for the question? All those opposed? Abstention? Bill. Sorry, Allie, go ahead.
Adam Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Domian?
Yes.
LaFontaine?
Yes.
Mike Earl? Yes. Brian Crow?
Yes.
Ali Shump? Yes. Matt Tilley?
Yes.
Mackenzie Morgan?
Yes.
Jason Regan?
Yes.
Josh O'Gara?
Yes.
Isabel Boulder? Yes. Louise Duarte?
Yes.
Ashley Reyes?
Yes.
Riley Veeder? Fiona Dolan? Michaela Abt?
Yes.
Joe Pistoli?
Yes.
Alexandra Robbins?
Yes.
Kira Shimlin? Stephen Nelson? Not a word. Oh, passes.
Introducing SS48-013, a bill amending Article 2. Oh, what did I say?
108.
Introducing SS48-108, a bill amending Article 2, Section 5 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration.
Awesome. Would you like to elaborate?
Yes, so this bill does a few things. The first, it adds that the president has the authority to appoint council chairs and the Director of Communications. So those are kind of the two new things that we have to add, just like we have been. As bylaw review committee is not changing processes, but rather bringing things up to current practice. That's where all the information about appointment of Board of Trustees reps is being struck because it does not conform with current practice. There's another process that's similar to the council application, hearing officer application that's followed instead of this very integrated process that has been in our bylaws for an extended amount of time. So the Board of Trustees process would move just like any other appointment, that there would be a Hawkland form being made by the executive board in conjunction with Vice President of Student Life, Dr. King, and Assistant Dean of Students, Carol Sacchetti, and move throughout that process. Other than that, just bring it up to current practice.
Ashley.
Since we're now removing the process of how Board of Trustees like is appointed because it's not with current practices, is there anywhere in our bylaws where it is going to outline the current practices of how we're going to be appointing Board of Trustees or the student conduct officers or the council chair? Other council chairs, yeah.
So council chairs is its own section under councils. For those ones, it's very simply, it's able to be changed based on the year. Some years Hawkland forms work best, other years when there's a lack of engagement, it's really just one person comes forward. There are those processes that do have Hawkland forms that will likely continue, but just in order to make sure that it's able to be flexible with the new e-board, with the new Senate structure, that's really where the decision is made to leave that out and include that in transition binders and so on.
But is it not included, now if the removal is not included anywhere in the bylaws that we're in charge of appointing those people? Or is there somewhere else in the bylaws like explicitly outlined that we are responsible for appointing them? Because like even up there, it just says like the committee, council chairs, parliamentarian, and director of comms.
If you would like to add an amendment to add that up there, that would be good. Yeah, so if you would like to, we can. When?
Motion to amend in that paragraph, yeah. After heads of standing board, student representatives for Board of Trustees, committees, and comma, and then what's the proper term of student conduct?
Hearing officers?
Hearing officers, yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of making that amendment? All those opposed? Abstentions. That amendment is not made. Anyone else for the speakers list?
Second.
All those in favor of call this bill to question? All those opposed? Bill's not being called to question.
Adam Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Yes.
McGraw?
Yeah. Yes.
Alex Johnfeld? Matt Simmons?
Abstain.
Mackenzie Warren? Yes. Jason Reagan?
Yeah.
Josh Shangar?
Yes.
Isabel Vallier?
Yeah.
Ashley Harris?
Yes.
Peter Pianazolan? Michaela Abt?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Alexander Robbins?
Yes.
Pierre Schindler? Stephen Alexander? All right, bill passes.
Any other? Go ahead.
Interesting SS48 that. What was the name?
109, I think.
Bill amending Article 6, Sections 6 and Article 2, Section 6 and 20 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration.
Would you like to elaborate?
Yes, once the bill gets pulled up. Basically, this just talks about sort of eval processes of e-board exclusivity. Other than that, if you sound like, let's say, one e-board, you can't sound the other word e-boards. And Section 20 explains the position of honor. Sort of if you get expelled from Senate, that you can't even sit on Senate boards or clubs, Senate chartered clubs and orgs.
Anyone like to hop onto the speakers list? Yeah, sorry. I don't know why.
Yeah. So a lot of what I'm gonna bring up tonight, because I have quite a bit to say on the next few bills, is I can already say, someone's gonna say, all right, the things you're saying, that's great, cool, but they're for SS49 and it's gonna get ignored. So I wanna take a second and say that this is a perfect time to fix some of the issues that we have on Senate, because this is the time that they're being rewritten. So you have to bring them back up, and it just prolongs the issues. And I don't think that we should plague a new Senate with old Senate issues. This new Senate will have challenges anyway, so why not set them up for success, and be sustainable and actually move towards a sustainable Senate where R&R isn't this giant issue. And a lot of these conversations that I've had, and I'm not doing anything, I promise, have gone on long enough, and they're just going to continue to be addressed until, like, they're just going to continue to come up until they're actually addressed. So if we choose to address them because I'm deciding to bring them up, great, awesome. If not, it's not my problem after the next few months. So if we want to make this the next Senate's problem again, so be it. So starting off with the position of honor, this has been a point of contention over the last few years, because, like, I personally have almost been kicked off Senate, and like, it's easier than you think. And this idea of not being able to hold any office if you mess up, it takes a week, one bad week, and you're kicked off Senate, and then you can't hold a position of honor for the rest of your time here. I did that as a sophomore. Like, I only got kicked off as a sophomore. Like, that would have been a train wreck, and it destroys your resume. And I understand that it's, oh, like, you lost, like, you didn't have this responsibility, so you lost our faith, and now you can't be in this position that we need to have faith in you. And I get it, I do. However, I think that plays into this seriousness that we have with ourselves and the elitism issue that we have. And also, God forbid we be nice to ourselves for once. Like, have grace with the people that are in this club together. And I think this is genuinely just too harsh. And I personally would rather get rid of the whole section. Like,
sure.
So if you want to make any, if you want to make any amendments, you are free to do so. In the Constitution, it says you are free to do that. And point of information, if I can add on, bylaw review committee just kind of fixes the wording where if something is vague, then that's all we literally take any process. We just don't. It's just not.
So going off of that, I know that's what bylaw does, but this is the time for the rest of the Senate to change it. So bylaw brought it up to speed, and then this is the time that we can say, yeah, we don't like this, or yeah, we do like this. So we have the option right here, right now, to work on some of these issues.
Point of inquiry.
Yeah, go ahead for the point of inquiry.
For position of honor, does it mean you can't be any part of any club or organization, like as a general member or as an e-board position or a cabinet position?
It's an e-board position.
Okay. So you can still be a part of the clubs and organizations even if you're expelled from Senate, correct? Okay.
Point of inquiry. Because this bill was has been introduced before, and it's a bylaw bill which requires it can't be considered for immediate consideration, right? If there's a vote, could a section be stricken out of a bill?
You could strike the section out of the bill, but if you strike section 20 from this, like, you would be striking out of the bylaws. And I would advise against that because I'm pretty sure it's referenced in other sections of the bylaws, and the bylaws would not be complete and everything. Rather, I think that if we fruitful discussion here might be clarifying what a better definition might be.
Motion to limit debate to 7 minutes.
Second. All in favor of limit debate. All those opposed. Abstentions. It's not being limited to 7 minutes. Adam.
So a few points. Here, the first speaker's sentiments about this being a 48 issue. Few things on that. While it is a 48 issue, it's also important to recognize that SS49 will have unique challenges that previous Senates have not. So for us in this room to be unilaterally making those decisions without allowing the new student body president and their executive board to have some say, to be able to meet and discuss would potentially be a hindrance to them. Specifically to a concern brought up about being too harsh. It says in the Constitution that the president can request that someone step down from their position to avoid the impeachment process. As is the case with receiving X number of demerits, if you are, for example, at 11 demerits, or if you know that you have more demerits coming after a conversation with an e-board member or advisor, you can simply resign instead of being expelled. That's the process that advisors and e-board would suggest, so that does not happen. Since Senate 45, that has been clarified in different sections in the bylaws to make sure that there's not just a flip of the switch and you're expelled and can't hold a position of honor. Section 20 specifically, though, is important to make sure that if you are removed from Senate for a just reason, showing up intoxicated to an SAF event, or other things that are detrimental to the student body and to student senate as a whole, that problem does not linger and we do not kick the can down the road to another club, another org, where that reputation is allowed to continue for years to come. That's really why the position of honor section is important and has merit.
Josh?
I feel like part of what I was gonna say has just been clarified, but I just wanted to express my point that like not everyone's meant to be a senator, so not every senator comes to Senate is meant or like is tailored to be a senator. And I don't think finding that out should let's say, should they have accumulated an excess of demerits, I don't think them finding out that they weren't meant or aren't best fit to serve the student body in the position as a senator should limit them from doing other things. But then as it was just clarified that there's kind of procedures put in place to avoid that. However, I am curious as to if there's, with those procedures being put in place, is there anything in the bylaws that has those procedures put in place where it would differentiate between the example given by a previous senator, someone showing up to an event intoxicated versus, let's say, an accumulation of demerits for excessive tardiness or something like that?
So in section 2, article 15, it lists out that once a total of 10 demerits is accumulated, that there's a demerit accumulation memorandum that goes out, which is then followed up by an advisor and e-board member. In article 2, section 19, substance policy, has student senate members are subject to demerits, removal from Senate, and other sanctions at the discretion of the executive board in the case that Senate members do not act in a manner befitting of a Senate member. And those would be conversations that are not done rash, but would include the assistant dean of students, potentially student conduct, and other things that have come up. So there are different processes outlined for that.
Thank you. There's also bills on the table tonight. We had those previously mentioned sections of the bylaws, article 2 section.
Bit of inquiry, sure. But does that 10 accumulation apply if you were to, going off of what's in the bylaws, say you miss a retreat and then you miss Jen said, meaning that's 12 right there. If you miss them in a row, what's the option there? Like, because then you would go straight to getting kicked off. There is no warning where you can step down.
Go ahead.
So that's where the advisors and e-board would have that intentional conversation, starting with the secretary, that this is coming down the pipeline. And as an e-board staff and serving on previous e-boards, working with multiple different advisors, there would never be a point in time if we would just say, here's 8, here's 4, there's 12, goodbye. There would be that conversation in place. That doesn't happen. And if it did come to the point that there is 12 that are justified and will not be appealed, then that's where the senator would be encouraged to resign, as to avoid this.
Is this anywhere in the bylaws, that sort of process?
We have information to do that and just reference the article and section numbers. Article, and they're also.
We're on the speakers list, Jay.
So it's not like a huge secret that my freshman year, I almost got kicked off Senate. And the process that I went through for that, this was before there was the ability to appeal demerits or to have, those different safety nets. But even then, even with everything that happened, some I agree with, some I don't, it never got to a point where I thought to myself, I have absolutely no choice but to get expelled from Senate, right? I think there are, as the vice president mentioned, there are so many different things that we have to prevent you from getting outwardly expelled from Senate, right? An accumulation of demerits like I had could come to being reached out to by an e-board member or being reached out to by your advisor. I think the vice president said it great. I don't think that the e-board is ever going to be like 8-4, you're gone. I don't think that that is the kind of blind application of the rules that I would expect from our fellow senators. I think that this is mostly reserved, as the vice president also mentioned, for those serious offenses, for things like being intoxicated in a Senate meeting or something like that. Those kind of qualities we want to discourage to an extent in which they would be removed and unable to serve on another form of leadership if they have a history of doing those kind of things. Those are the only cases this kind of thing would realistically happen due to all the other things that we have to prevent someone from being outwardly expelled. So I think that this is fine to keep in there.
Point of information, the time just ended. Is our question?
Motion to extend by 5 more minutes. Motion to forego.
I'm going to go with the first motion. Second. All objector 5 minutes. All opposed. Abstentions.
So point of inquiry is that the warning written in the bylaws that it has to happen, because my experience was 8-4, I accumulated 13 and it was goodbye. And at the time, there wasn't the rule. This is the reason why the rule is there, actually, that if you accumulate over, then you can go and appeal them. So unless it is written, it's, yes, I love your character. You would never do that, but Senate, period, end of sentence, has done that. So unless it is written somewhere, is it?
Information, I believe that Adam, again, just referenced that exact section and
Can I direct?
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's Article 2, Section 15, which is demerits, and then subsection 4, demerit records. That's how it's currently written in the bylaws. There is a bill to clarify some of the language, and it states the secretary must provide senators a demerit accumulation warning once a total of 10 demerits has been accumulated. And there's also subsection 7, expulsion by demerits, with clause 1, the reapproachment clause, which breaks down that process.
Yeah, not Jay. Yeah.
Going back to that subsection, it wouldn't actually say that you guys bring together e-board to talk about it, though. It just states that you guys fully consent or expelled.
What is the procedure? The discussion we're having right now pertains to a different section of the bylaw that's what we discussed later on. Maybe we hold off and have that. Section 6 of section 20 right now.
All right, I can continue my speaking turn. I actually wanted to steer the conversation to section 6 because I know it has been brought up from outside organization members that sort of being that elected a member of, let's say, class officer or being an e-board or being just a senator in general, that you can't really intermingle those two responsibilities. And said person has kind of gone out to have those conversations, and there hasn't really been a solidified answer from what I've heard, but I don't want to start spreading.
Sure. The reason, are you referring to the reason why you can't serve on 2 organizations, executive boards or elected positions? And I'm just going to say it flat out right here. The reason why you cannot be, for example, an IRHA executive board member, and a general senator. Let's just have those both be the example. For one, far too much work. SPLO and Senate, burnout's a thing. We've all recognized that this year. And yes, retention and recruitment, having two people serve on two, or one person serve on two orgs might be fantastic. But having that much work while also trying to balance your academics is not something that's sustainable. So having a limit on that is something that's going to be needed. And that's why this is in here. This is simply clarifying that language. And this is a practice that has been had all 4 years that I have been on Senate. And if Adrian was here, she'd be saying that it was all 20 years she's been at this university.
Point of information.
Go ahead.
It's also listed in all the other org constitutions with slightly different language because it is department policy, university policy. So even if we were to amend it, that would not be able to work within the guidelines because we would be breaking university policy.
Can I direct?
Yeah, you can do a point of information.
Okay, I also think it's just about equitable distribution of opportunities. People sitting on two different boards is really unfair. I know life isn't fair, but we can make it as fair as possible. And I think you need to have that exclusivity and that really hard line, because that's not fair. Like, let other people try and step up as they come in or as they really get to know the university. So I think that should kind of just be as is. It should be kind of almost a given.
I can do my speaking turn.
Sure.
Because I feel like right now, even just in the SS48, there are what, 2 missing seats still?
There are a bunch of missing.
Anyways, my point being is that
There's 2 in this one.
all the orgs,
yeah,
there's 2 in this,
including Senate, we're all facing this lack of recruitment issue. And right now on campus, like the same student leaders are showing up everywhere. And I appreciate their hard work ethic and their hard contribution to Roger Williams University. Do not get me wrong. So there are some students that feel like they can tackle this sort of responsibility on. And with that being said, if they feel like they can take it on, let them take it on. Let them find out the hard way that they can't do it all. And if they feel like they still can do it all, so be it. And I get it. Being a senator, even just being in any org, is a lot of hard work. So I get that stuff. But for those who really want to step up and do it, so be it. Because you guys say, oh, save some space for the rest of us. There are practices for like the extra spots for freshmen, where you save 5 spots for freshmen for each start of the new Senate series. And right now we have, like I said, 3 empty seats, and no one's stepping up to take it.
What information?
There's
nothing stopping anyone from being a general senator and sitting on every single committee or council that any other org has. So like still have an opportunity to get involved in as many ways as possible. And that's still a lot of time commitment and responsibility they're taking on with only holding one position on.
Point of information as well, there's nothing stopping someone from also being an executive board member of, say, ICC or IRHA, but also sitting in the audience as a member to speak on behalf. Members that aren't sitting here now, I think just for the sake of time, but there's no reason why, while we're going over legislation, that they can't. I mean, right now, like, he doesn't have to be here. He wants to be here, and he's listening, and he wanted to be on the speakers list, so he has the ability to.
Point of information, the time has been exhausted for ones. Was there
motion to prepare the meeting today?
There's no meeting. It's not a meeting time. It's
Second.
The
Speakers list.
yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, okay.
Call this bill to question.
Yeah, second.
Hold on. I'm gonna veto that one real quick because there's already a motion on the floor. You want a motion to forgo speakers list? Exhaust the speakers list. Is there a second? All right. All those in favor for exhausting the speakers list? All those opposed? Abstentions. Speakers list is now foregone. I'm sorry?
I'm done for my speaking.
Okay, I'll move on to the speakers list. Zach.
I just have a quick personal question.
Sure.
Do we have to extend the time, or is that just been?
It was just for the bell.
Okay.
Yep.
So I agree with some of the points that have been made, and I'd like to reiterate that that this kind of pertains to, like, those serious offenses and stuff like that. However, I would entertain the idea of maybe having an aspect of it that there's maybe some sort of appeal to where if there's like a demonstration of like improved character or the ability to come before a council or committee or something to be able to hold those positions again. I think that would, what? Not necessarily demerit appeals, but being able to hold those positions of honor in different chartered clubs or organizations. I think that would make this part of the bylaws more reasonable.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead, I'm done.
In section 2 or article 2, section 15, it mentioned somewhere along the lines, I don't know exactly word for word, but it says once you hit the 12 demerits, you can appeal all of them before you get completely expelled from it.
Point of information, I think he's trying to say if you get expelled.
Right. Direct.
You can continue speaking in terms of that. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, if you do something that warrants expulsion, I think you should be expelled. But however, if you kind of improve on that and kind of show, you can come back and show that, like, you know, you've kind of changed character, like become worthy of like holding a position of honor elsewhere, I think you should be able to do that.
Personal privilege, so essentially like a redemption process.
Right.
Point of parliamentary procedure, while I appreciate the sentiment that is not within the confines of this bill nor the discussion, I encourage other legislation to be brought forward to add that to the bylaws. And I appreciate the point, as I think it is helping this discussion. But right now, I think that this is on the floor, and we do have to get on. Ashley.
I do think it's worth a conversation to see if someone is to be expelled from the Senate, that's because they couldn't handle the responsibilities of being a member of the board. But that doesn't go to show that they cannot still fulfill their responsibilities or fulfill their duties being a member of a chartered club, or especially a club sport. Because the requirements of being a part of a club or a club sport is very different than the requirement of being a part of the board. So I'm just gonna throw out motion to amend the last paragraph for the definition of a position of honor to say that it is classified as an elected or appointed position within any student senate chartered organization, and strike club and club sport. So that way it just says that position of honor is being a part of an org.
No.
Sure.
So I guess where I'm at, showing up to an SA event intoxicated, regardless of what position you have, still does not warrant you to be on Senate, ICC, or any other club. If you have a severe conduct case that involves sexual harassment or misconduct, that should not change depending on if you're a club or an organization. That should be your involvements on this campus do not fall under the Student Senate, the Division of Student Life, or the Department of Student Programs, Leadership, and Orientation.
It's still a motion on the floor, so is there a second?
Striking club and club sports. That way it says position of honor is elected or appointed position within a student senate charter organization.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All in favor of making that change? All those opposed? Abstentions?
If we are not willing to change the fact that if someone is expelled from student senate, that they can't hold a position on a club organization or club sport, then why are we still having this conversation? If you're not willing to change the definition of a position of honor, if that's what's holding people back from going to approve this bill right now.
Motion to amend section 20 in the red paragraph, just where it says club sport. Just strike it.
Second.
Point of personal privilege. So I'm trying to, so is everyone like just against, not against, but is there just problems with the definition and like the minor misdemeanors that might come with the expulsion of like being off of Senate? Like, so if you like miss 3 meetings and that deems for expulsion,
is that kind of where that definition is kind of thinking of both ends. Like, I do agree with the prior senator's point that if you sexually assault someone or you do something that's harmful to another student, I'm sorry, you shouldn't get any of that. That's where that entire allowing predators to still hold positions kind of comes in. But misdemeanors where you might get exposed because of unexcused absences or a very, very minor, maybe it's worth adding a section in another bill in which that describes what those, or maybe adding on to this, on what those, I guess, I think this discussion is a beyond maybe what could be added tonight or amended, because I think there's a lot of different avenues that this could be taken and up to the parliamentarian to kind of distinguish or what that means, I guess, essentially for the bylaws. So maybe I'm just trying to gain everyone's kind of perspective, because I'm hearing multiple different perspectives. And I agree that misdemeanors shouldn't prevent you from being a club secretary, as in if you missed a general meeting, and that shouldn't prevent you from being on a club e-board as a secretary member or something. But if you sexually assault someone, I'm sorry, you don't get any of those rights.
Point of information.
I'm gonna hold on that one because it's still a motion on the floor. So all those in favor of striking, club sport, all those in favor of striking club sport? All those opposed? All right, that motion fails. Okay, go ahead.
I think another piece of important context here is throughout the past numerous years, everyone that has accumulated a total of 12 demerits for whatever reason, whether it's for missing 3 General Senate meetings, for tardiness, for not submitting reports, was given the option to resign, as listed in the Constitution. In certain cases back in Senate 45, that process was not honored correctly by the executive board. That year, and then moving forward, there's another process, 2 processes outlined to make sure that the executive board cannot do that. And that's really where the onus is placed on the senator. If you are at 12 demerits and you're faced with 2 options, option number 1, being expelled from Senate and not being able to hold a position of honor, or option 2, resigning and still being able to hold a position of honor. At some point, the senator has to make that decision. I want to be expelled, or do I want to resign, as is your right in the Constitution and in the bylaws? So if a senator chooses to be expelled, they're forfeiting what's listed there. If you choose to resign, you can be any club secretary position you want. You can be on a club school. There's not a binary here. The choice is really the senators.
Ashley?
Sorry, how do you speak? Oh, my speaking turn's not okay.
Oh.
Sorry. I'm gonna do a different motion, to amend the paragraph above, this is section 20, position of honor, to strike, dismiss. So that way it's only someone who is expelled. Because if I was a parliamentarian, I could say if someone accumulates 12 demerits, I could encourage them to step down from the position, or they could be expelled. One could perceive it as someone being encouraged to step down, to resign, as them being dismissed. And I wouldn't want someone who is willingly taking that step down be perceived as being dismissed and therefore not being able to hold a position of honor. So I think it should be cut and dry, and that only someone who is expelled cannot hold a position of honor.
All those in favor of making that amendment? All those opposed? All right, that amendment is not okay. Cool, Brian.
So what I'm thinking I see is a problem is that people are saying that you cannot hold, it sounds like people are confusing that you have to be in the club with the organization, but you can't. You just can't hold a keyboard position, which is, I'm sure everyone's bylaws saying that if you're not in good academic standing or conduct standing in the university, you're not allowed to be on Senate or any other organizations, or actually any organization, I'm pretty sure, on campus.
Would anyone like to yield a speaking turn? Sure. Ashley, go ahead.
Actually, my question was answered. Sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Motion to call this bill to question.
Second.
All right.
see. All those in favor of calling this, oh yeah, sorry.
Too late.
I thought you were doing, all in favor of calling this for the question? God, all opposed? Abstentions. God, I died. All those in favor, oh my God. This bell's yeah, call the vote. Come here.
Adam
Go ahead.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Joe Meehan.
Yes.
Fontaine.
Yes.
Mike Rowe.
Yes.
Brian Carl.
Yes.
Ali Schoenfeld. Matt Tilly.
Yes.
Mackenzie Morgan.
Yes.
Jay Regan.
Yes.
Josh Garrett.
Yes.
Isabel Bollier. Louise B. Gardner.
Yeah.
Ashley Arias. Riley Reeder. Fiona Zolan.
Same.
Michaela Apt. Joe Pastuli. Alexandra Robin.
Yes.
Kira Shimai. Stephen Nelson.
Yes.
That's it.
Any other piece of legislation?
I actually have a question.
Sure.
You want to introduce all Article 2, then we'll follow with the other bill? Okay, all right, I just want to make sure, sorry, I should have clarified that.
Would that be
Okay,
consent
proceed.
agenda?
Zach?
Introducing SS48-110, a bill amending Article 2, Section 9 of the Student Senate bylaw for consideration.
Would you like to elaborate?
I would like to, yes. So as you can see, we're just mainly doing some grammatical changes with the absences, general Senate meetings, making sure that it's fully stated that as we talked at retreat, that you must give the secretary notice to the absence request form, which is on the Hawk link, as that was something that we were all in favor of. So we're making that more clear this meeting. We also outlined committee and council meetings. So, you know, take your leisure to read that. We basically just made sure that that was outlined with 24-hour policy. As was something else that was discussed at winter board retreat. That's something that we wanted to be consistent. We also outlined the general absence policy, which, as you know, that is the current practice, so that is not anything new. That's it. So.
Go ahead.
Just a friendly amendment. Under the absence of general Senate meetings, it should be just 2 weeks, not 2 weeks day notice. So just strike day.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Would anyone like, sorry, would anyone like to go ahead?
Do I say point of inquiry or do I just ask the question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is the red text amendments that have gone through, or is that amendments that are going to be passed? I'm sorry, I'm showing my.
No, yeah,
I can answer it. So the red text is the proposed amendments. So it's what's the stuff that we're hoping to change with passing the bill. So we're hoping to add section B, section C, and like strike anything, whatever, all that. Yeah.
Sorry for asking questions.
Kayla?
I think my only discomfort with this is saying that it has to be an emergency within those 2 weeks, because we often say like, we're students, and students first and things like that. And the amount of times that my professor has been like, hey, can you stay after? And I'm like, no, like absolutely not, like I have to go. I have to say yes. And they give zero notice when it's meeting with the professor and things like that. So I think my discomfort there is saying it's an emergency, because I've had it happen where that hasn't been considered an emergency. So then you like within the 2 weeks, I'll be like, I can't, and that's considered not an emergency. So I guess that's where my discomfort with this is. Not sure how else to put that forward.
Yeah.
I guess like emergency is a broad term in this sense, or a vague term. Like it can be up to parliamentary interpretation. I would, if your professor's asking you to stay after, right after class, like, you can't really, you're not gonna say no to your professor, right? Like if it's for your thesis, like you're not gonna say no. Like sorry, I gotta go. I mean, you can't be a student center without being a student. It depends on parliamentary interpretation. However, the next parliamentarian is not me. Yeah, not me. Sorry, gotta go. But like, and I see your problems with it. Like, yes, that whoever the next person is like, no, we have to be definitely ill. Like, you know.
So how else could we this is kind of like a help me out here. How could we word that so it'd be like emergency? So this or emergency. So like special circumstance or something like that. I would special circumstance or emergency. So, oh, that was easy. Thank you.
Go ahead, direct.
So personally, for me, point of information. So when it comes to the absence request, it usually is at the discretion of the secretary. If the fact of I have to go to study or a study group or I'm not feeling well, it's more at the discretion of what. So the 2 weeks is usually at the discretion.
And where could we make it if it is an emergency or if it is an emergency or something, add something to where it says or by the discretion. Like if it is an emergency or by the discretion of the secretary. It doesn't mean it's yes or no, it just states like there's discretion there.
Motion to amend to say
Point of
hang on.
promotion.
Sure.
Doesn't it kind of say in section C, the secretary will decide whether the absence.
Motion to amend in section A after it says unless it is an emergency to add an emergency or a change to your academic schedule, because there have been times where like I think that is a change to an academic schedule where you have to meet with an advisor or you have to meet with a group or do a study thing. That is something academic that you can be prioritizing over Senate.
A motion.
Is a motion.
Second.
It's still a motion on the floor. So motion first. There's a second. All those in favor of making that amendment. All those opposed. All those opposed. Abstentions. Okay.
Second. Motion to amend to read instead of that highlighted thing to say or special circumstance.
Can I do a point of information, please?
Sure.
That's okay. I'm really troubled with this because I feel like this is meant to be intentionally a little vague, and it's putting in something like there, like, or a change of your academic schedule. Okay, if my academic schedule changes by like the slightest thing, like does that count? Like adding this in here adds an unnecessary rigidness that would make this process much harder for future e-boards to appropriately determine. So I think this should be left to interpretation. I think that should not be an amendment we make. And I think it should be up to the discretion of the e-boards, not constrained by language that's meant to be vague.
To a previous senator's point, absence requests are not decided in a silo. So while the secretary has jurisdiction, there's been times that myself as secretary and the current secretary and the previous secretary have all consulted with both advisors first, with other e-board members. So the classification of an emergency, as pointed out, is intentional. Special circumstances is in and of itself an emergency that prevents you from the 2 weeks notice. In that kind of emergency definition, it's up to the secretary to decide what classifies as an emergency. And that's why there's a demerit process. So if you feel that the demerits were still given and you have a valid reason, there's a process that outlines how to go about that. But the language in here is intentional.
Go, your next one.
So I feel like the a motion to make this amendment will actually mention the intent behind it is because when we talk about emergency, this is left to sort of parliamentary interpretation. Where we say emergency, you dial 911, they say 911, what's your emergency? Indicating either police, fire, or ambulance, some sort of ambulance need. So that sense of immediate urgency and immediate attention. So the idea behind that motion is to sort of suggest that what a previous center had mentioned where, oh, a teacher pulls you really quick out of class, or there's some sort of meeting where you have to work on a project, something that's academic, because we do say we're students first, but I don't want to make it simple like a payment of emotion to suggest that we're students first. That's all.
Go ahead. Motion to amend that line to read.
I'm gonna review that real quick just because there was a.
Yeah, for information, we're kind of just debating whether the language of emergency. Here all night debating kind of what that means, or we can add a sentence somewhere that says an emergency means this, which I kind of think is explained in section C, just because it says it's already decided what the secretary decides. So I think that again we can debate about what an emergency is, but overall it's kind of whatever problem is arisen is taking the secretary, and they are kind of determining. So.
Limit debate to 5 minutes.
Second. Limiting debate to 5 minutes. All opposed? Sections. It's now limited to 5 minutes.
Motion to call this bill to question.
Second.
All those in favor of calling this bill to question? All opposed? Abstentions? Call the question.
Yes.
Domian?
Yes.
LaFontaine?
Yes.
McGraw?
Yes.
Brian Carroll?
Yes.
Ali Schoenfeld? Yes. Matt Tully?
Yes.
Mackenzie Mortimer?
Yes.
Jason Morgan?
Yes.
Yes.
Isabel Bollier? Yes. Lucy Gardner?
Yes.
Ashley Harris? Okay. Arlene Peter? Bianna Dolan?
Same.
Michaela Abt? Joe Pistoli?
No.
Alexandra Robbins?
Yes.
Kiara Shinley?
Yes.
Stephen Alvin?
Yes.
Bill passes.
Get stuff done.
Motion to introduce SS48-1.
Introduce.
Motion to introduce.
Introduce.
Introducing SS. Blah blah.
My bad. Introducing SS48-111. A bill amending Article 2, Sections 15 and 16 of the Student Senate bylaws.
Right.
For regular consideration. I always do that.
Motion to
elaborate?
Yes. So I'll walk us through really quick. But this is primarily going over our demerit article and demerit appear articles, and it's primarily going to be going over a changing in wording and simplification, and there'll be no changes in practice at all. Some language is simplified and adding more specific details, such as an example is actions of the unfitting of a senator now has an example so that we can actually get a bit more information from what that means. And basically, it's just going to be going over those primary details. If we go to subsection 6, you'll notice that this is one of the subsections being struck, just as like an explanation of why it's being struck. The language has been changed so that now it's not student senators, it's Senate members, which means technically the demerit process applies to everyone automatically. Before I move on to demerit appeals, can I make a motion friendly amendment?
Sure.
Can I make a friendly amendment to line B? Oh, sorry. Just go up. Just keeps going up. I'll find it for you. Yeah. No. Yes. Violation.
I did.
Oh, you already did that?
I did it.
All right, and then can you also look at line G? Right there. Boom. Never mind, you already did it. Thank you.
Amendment. Can you go back up to C? You just push that in, the violation. It's just.
Hit tab.
Point of information that can be addressed later.
There we go.
Thank you.
Finally, there's demerit appeals, which is the last article at the bottom of the page or of the document. And primarily, this is just simplifying the wording. It's just bringing it up to current practices.
First, you scroll to where it used to say clause 1 would be equivalent clause. Okay, thank you. That's good.
All right. I'm not going to debate to 7 minutes.
Second. All those in favor of limiting debate to 7 minutes? All opposed? Abstentions? Debate's not being limited to 7 minutes.
Motion to close.
No, sorry. So once again, like as a senior, if I could be listened to and like actually heard, these are some of the things that I think should be addressed to kind of help the R&R situation, because demerits are a large issue with R&R, like it or not. Actually, surprisingly, I don't have too many issues with the current demerits as they're listed out. I think if anything, to bring things up to current practices, can we go to where it lists out, like, if you missed this, then it's this many, that one right there. So I think to bring it up to current practices, it should be written as for in some way, like at committee chair discretion, but no more than 2 demerits, 3 demerits. So for unexcused absence, I've gotten one where it was 1 demerit because it was up to the discretion of the chair, but this technically is telling me that that 1 demerit should have been 3 demerits. So if we put somewhere in here that is like up to the discretion of secretary or the chair or something like that, I think that would be helpful and would be something that could help R&R in the future, because it isn't an if then. So that will help with the not accumulating as many demerits. And then, so I think that's something we should discuss a little. But then can we go to, where's the technology? Anyway, it's in there somewhere. Anyway, so I so disagree with having this in here. This has been discussed so many times and will continue to be discussed. Will probably be discussed at SS49. So I'm just going to start the conversation now because I believe that allowing technology should be a given because it's used in the real world. Committees allow us to use technology. It's an accessibility issue. I had to write a note to 3 different people to be able to read one of these off my phone because I can't read the red writing. That's not okay. And this will just continue to be a discussion if we just keep putting it off. It also will help with the seriousness issue because I feel like being able to like bounce around more because we have technology, looking things up and things like that will help out a little bit. And it is more real world. I don't know. I think it's kind of weird that we don't have any technology going because it's so jarring from what a normal committee would look like outside of Senate. And I also think that it's a sustainability issue with how we sustain this. One, it's a sustainability issue in that using paper and stuff like that, like physically sustainable. But also, this is something that has been brought up as an R&R issue where the various reasons that technology should and could be used isn't being used. And I just think that it's more of a hurt than a help by not having this. So if we want to just talk about that a little bit, that'd be cool.
I just kind of agree with the use of technology and whether it cannot or shouldn't be used is not within the confines of this bill. This is merely talking about whether it is a demerit of the offense. It's not stating whether or not it's allowed or not.
Let me rephrase. Keeping that aspect of this bill in the bill.
Point of information, the statement says disruptive behavior and inappropriate behavior. I think in the context of this bill, in terms of using technology, it's just for demerits. Like if you're like pulling out your phone and scrolling through TikTok in the middle of the Senate meeting, I think in the context of this bill, that's the type of behavior that's appropriate for a general meeting. But I definitely, I mean, in terms of sustainability practices and things going forward, I think that conversation can certainly be brought up in a different context, but in this context in particular, I think in terms of disruptive behavior, that's the only thing that ties technology to this.
Point of inquiry. Maybe this question is better answered from the former secretary, but hypothetically speaking, if let's say a person cannot attend a retreat and they fill out an absence request form, do they still get demerited because of it? And let's say that reasons hypothetically they have some sort of thing planned prior to that and they really just cannot make
To direct, there's an absence policy listed. There needs to be 2 months notice given, just renew and then no. Renew. And then no.
Renew.
No.
No, yes, there we go. So there's outlined in Article 9, there needs to be 2 months given by the e-board of the date of retreat. Senators have 1 month prior to submit an absence request. That way you have a month to know if you're able to make it or not. If you're not able to make it, you're expected to put in an absence request. If not, only emergencies will be considered.
And if they do, let's say, put it in before that time, do they still get the negative?
It's an excused absence, so it would follow the same process.
Direct?
Sure. I got it.
You're right, Brian did have a direct, I apologize. You can offer a point of information after this. Go ahead, go ahead.
So, hi, Michaela. So speaking on what you were saying about technology, I will say that when we have technology in Senate, it is great. I use it in my committee. I personally use it with my accommodations, but I will say something. Not everyone here is the same. And I have seen people that have used it disruptively, like that, and that's just not allowed. You cannot allow stuff like that to happen because it does not look good on us when that's on video and people get to see it. It's like that.
Information, sure. Just to like go back to an earlier point of it being within the discretion of a chair. If we look at subsection 1, line A, which actually it's the one at the bottom. There needs to be another friendly amendment. Scroll down a little bit more. Right there. It mentions that demerits may be requested by the chairperson of a Senate committee and are accepted at the discretion of the secretary or vice president. Essentially, that will state that it is the discretion of the chairperson to assign those demerits, and they can assign those demerits as well.
Point of information, I was saying that the next subsection is an if then, and period, end of sentence is an if then.
That exhausts the time limit. Do I have any motions?
Amendment, can we add committees and councils are accepted?
Second.
That's
fine.
Yeah.
Motion to call this vote a question.
Second. All in favor of calling this vote a question? All opposed? Abstentions? Bill's not being called a question.
Adam Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Joe Meehan.
Yes.
Bob Fontaine.
Yes.
Mike Earl.
Yes.
Brian Carl.
Yes.
Ali Trumbo. Matt Tilly.
Yes.
Mackenzie Morgan. Yes. Jason Reagan.
Yes.
Isabel Boyer. Yeah. Louise Garcia. Ashley Harris. No. Carly Veeder. Fiona Dolan.
No.
Michaela Abt. Nope. Joe Pistoli.
Yes.
Alexander Robbins.
Yes.
Pierre Shimley. Yes. Stephen Hansner.
Yes.
Bill passes.
Under parliamentary procedure, in the future, check to see how many people are on the speakers list before you call it a question. Because, you know, you could just exhaust the speakers list before calling the question. People might have had points and motions before you call it a question.
Any other piece of legislation? Adam.
Introducing SS48-112, a bill amending Article 2, Section 17 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration.
Would you like to elaborate?
Yes. So as we outlined in the Constitution, when we amended that previously, this Section 17 is just brought up to what's listed in the Constitution in current practice within the Senate, changing senator to Senate member. And also if we scroll down, yeah, so it just clarifies some of the language to make it more concise, and also adds that the vice president, in the absence of the parliamentarian, shall preside over the hearing, since that's what we voted on during the Constitution Amendment.
The speakers list.
Motion to call this bill to question.
Second.
All in favor of calling this bill to question? All opposed? Abstentions? This bill is now being called a question.
Adam Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Joe Meehan.
Yes.
Bob Fontaine.
Yes.
Mike Earl.
Yes.
Brian Carl.
Yes.
Ali Trumbo. Yes. Matt Tilly.
Yes.
Mackenzie Morgan.
Yes.
Jason Reagan.
Yes.
Yes.
Isabel Boyer.
Yeah.
Louise Garcia.
Yeah.
Ashley Harris.
Abstain.
Carly Veeder. Fiona Dolan.
Abstain.
Michaela Abt.
Yes.
Joe Pistoli.
Yes.
Alexandra Robbins?
Yes.
Peter Schindler? Stephen Nelson?
Increase legislation. Right.
Introducing SS48-113. Bill amending Article 3, Section 21 of the City Senate bylaws.
Regular consideration?
For regular consideration. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I keep doing this.
Would you like to elaborate?
Yes. Very simplistic. Basically, this section is actually being added to the bylaws to update our current practices. Considering now the addition of handbooks, it's basically giving that explanation of which forms of legislation are being moved to which handbooks.
This figures, let's go, Ashley.
Can I just have some clarification about like the timeline of handbooks? Because it doesn't quite make sense to me. Especially with like for me, like with the internal elections handbook. Like the current executive board created the internal elections handbook that the next Senate is going to be using for their internal election. And so like that timeline does not make sense to me why you're creating a process for someone else to be used in the future. And just the fact that it's gonna get, like, you know what I'm saying? That those aren't making sense.
I can speak on that a little bit. We simply created that so that there was a process in place. There's no reason why, and we are trying to meet with the next president to before it is coming to the floor and voted on. And, you know, create processes and all of that. Like that elections handbook, as you all know, since you haven't voted on a bill to ratify it, hasn't been ratified. So that process those processes aren't being utilized yet. So like if Mike wants to, I'm using Mike because obviously Mike's not the next president, but like if he wants to give his opinion on it, like we're gonna get his opinion and we're gonna use it. But like we can't get Senate 49 opinion on it yet because Senate 49 isn't a thing yet. That's literally the only reason. It's just not a thing yet.
Point of
like
information.
Sorry, if I can just continue.
Yeah, sure.
Like, because like with the timeline as well, it will be ratified at the first general Senate meeting of the fall semester, and then the changes, approval of the changes being made to the handbook before it's ratified is going to be approved by committees that haven't met yet at that point. You know what I mean? Like there's not going to be club ignoring committees or finance committees that meet enough times for those new committees to look over the handbooks before ratifying them at the first general Senate meeting.
Can I point of? So ratifying the handbooks are simply saying, hi, we know these exist and that they are a resource. If Clubs and Orgs Committee wants to do like next year wants to do like a complete overhaul of the Clubs and Orgs Committee handbook, they can do that, and then they just tell the Senate like, hi, we made all of these changes, and that's it. Because according to this, the Clubs and Orgs Committee will be making those changes and voting on them by themselves. When we did all the ratification bills for the SAF handbook, the Parliament handbook, and the Clubs and Orgs handbook, we weren't voting on the contents, we were voting on whether or not they existed.
Point of information. The other reason that this timeline is intentional is because the first Senate meeting would be in August or September, depending on the timeline, in order to give clubs and orgs activity fee, in order to have some reference material for them to work off of as the academic year approaches. There needs to be something that says, these are the standard operating procedures. Yes, they can change throughout the year as the committee gets established and as things come up, but it's just formally saying that these exist, these current processes that have worked before exist. And then there's still that time period over the summer that can be a retreat discussion. If it needs to change for an immediate purpose, that can be done at a summer retreat, at a winter retreat, sometime that the Senate's together or that the committee's together.
Brian?
Joe? My question is, so let's say the Clubs and Orgs handbook needs to be changed. So the committee can just do that whenever they feel, or do they have to wait until the end?
Point of information, they just do it whenever they want.
And then do they have to bring it to the Senate floor? Like, or do they just have to?
You have several forms that we do these changes,
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So how would they inform that?
Sure. For example, I already have made a few changes, which y'all should have because they were in the minutes. I've added a couple of things, like when we introduced the concept of a consent agenda, I added that to the Parley Pro handbook. I just put it in my report and said like, hi, this happened, this has been added. So it's merely in a report. They're just notifying Senate. Easiest way is in a report, but we left it vague on purpose.
Motion to call the bill to question.
Second.
Bill not being called to question.
Adam Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Domian?
Yes.
LaFontaine?
Yes.
Mike Earl?
Yes.
Brian Carroll?
Yes.
Ali Schoenfeld? Yes. Matt Telly?
Yes.
Mackenzie Morgan?
Yes.
Jason Regan?
Yes.
Josh Ongara?
Yes.
Bob Lear? Please do
Yes.
Garte? Ashley Harris?
Abstaining.
Riley Veeder? Fiona Dolan?
Yes.
Michaela Apt?
Yep.
Joe Pistoli?
Yes.
Alexander Robbins?
Yes.
Kira Shumway?
Yes.
Stephen Nelson?
Yes.
All right, bill passed.
Any other piece of legislation for old business? Oh, Zach.
Introducing SS48-114, a bill amending Article 2, Section 22, schools and bylaws for regular consideration.
Would you like to elaborate?
I will. So as you can see, we're just outlining the independent requirements. So we kind of went in depth as to what are the implications to the school. So if you read these ahead of time, you would understand that these are necessary changes that from current practices. Yes.
Go to Jay.
Yeah. Having read these beforehand, these are all things we already do. And this is just clarifying that this is something that we already do. So let's make it happen.
Motion to call this bill to question. Second. All in favor of calling for the question? All opposed? Abstentions?
Personal privilege, can we all like make sure we're sticking our hands out and voting and stuff?
This bill is not being called to question.
Adam Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Domian?
Yes.
LaFontaine?
Yes.
Mike Rob?
Yes.
Brian Carroll?
Yes.
Ali Schoenfeld?
Yes.
Matt Telly?
Yes.
Mackenzie Morgan?
Yes.
Jason Regan?
Yes.
Josh Ongara?
Yes.
Isabel Bollier?
Yep.
Louise Dugarte?
Yeah.
Ashley Arias?
No.
Riley Veeder? Fiona Dolan?
No.
Michaela Abt?
Yes.
Joe Pistoli? Alexander Robbins?
Yes.
Kira Shumway? Stephen Nelson? Bill passes.
Motion for a 5-minute recess.
Second. All in favor of 5-minute recess? All opposed? Abstentions? Now read it.
Adam Kavanaugh.
Here.
Zachary Domian.
Here.
Alexander Fabridas.
Here.
Mike Earl. Here. Brian Carroll. Here. Ali Schoenfeld. Matthew Tilly.
Here.
Mackenzie Morgan.
Here.
Jason Regan.
Here.
Here.
Yep.
Here.
I am here.
Here.
I have a
Here.
Here. Alexander Robbins.
Here.
All right.
All right, folks.
Piece of legislation, Joe.
Introducing SS48-115, bill amending Article 2, Sections 1, 2, 4, 7, 8, 7, 14, and I believe 17 and 18.
Like elaborate.
Basically, bylaw review committee came to the agreement to sort of put all these under one bill because we felt like it was only changing the wording and not only not changing the processes, but felt like this might not be brought up to a lot of conversation. And assuming we've done our due diligence in reading it, we've already have ideas to present. If not, I'm open to discussion.
Open to Can you keep scrolling down? There's a point I want to make, but I just have a question. Keep scrolling. I may just missed it. Keep scrolling. I think it's the last page. Where is it? I think there's something in here that it was about something about, I think, absence. Oh, it was about scheduling office hours. That's what it was. It said that they have to be scheduled no later than the second week of the semester. But there's nothing in here that says if a center is appointed in the middle of the year. Is that just within the 2 weeks of them being appointed? Like, what's with that?
So that's for the beginning of the Senate semester.
Okay.
for everyone. So all of those that are kind of on Senate currently, during new senator orientation, that's when we schedule office hours right then and there. So it's kind of, you join Senate, have orientation, and you do office hours, and you start that week or the next week, depending. It's just making sure that we're not going into the week 3 or week 4 of the semester, and people are still like, wait, when are office hours starting? It's kind of giving Senate a firm timeline on that.
Okay, thank you.
Jay?
Similar to a lot of the other bills in this department, it's a great thing being able to read them in advance when they come out, because it really does show you how uncontroversial many of these are. This one in particular, it's very long. There's a lot of different things here, but everything in here is mostly just procedural and grammatical changes that is mostly uncontroversial. I know it's long, I know it's lengthy, but this is a very non-controversial bill.
Motion to call this bill to question.
Second.
I'm gonna veto that real quick. This is a motion.
Motion to amend in the red in section 10 to read for their respective ad committees or council or respective meeting.
What?
After the red.
What? After the red.
Respective committee or council.
Yeah, second.
Council chair and just adding committee and council after respective.
For general Senate meetings or a committee or council chair for the respective committees or councils.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of making that amendment? All opposed? Abstentions?
Motion to redo roll call.
Second. All in favor of redoing roll call? Second. All opposed? Abstentions? Can I get a roll call, please?
Adam Kavanaugh.
Here.
Zachary Nolan.
Here.
Alexander DiFabrizio.
Here.
Michael Rouse.
Here.
Brian Carroll.
Here.
Ali Shonto.
Here.
Matthew Tilley.
Here.
Kenzie Morgan.
Here.
Jason Regan.
Yeah.
Joshua O'Gara.
Here.
Isabel Bullier.
Yes, here.
Louise Dugardin.
Here.
Ashley Harazaz.
Here.
Riley Veeder. Fiona Dolan. Michaela Act.
Sorry.
Here.
Joseph Pastuli.
Here.
Alexander Robbins.
Here.
Heather Sheeman.
Motion to call this bill to question.
Second.
Hold on, hold.
Oh,
Yeah, I have a hard, hold on.
Go ahead. You have a motion?
Yeah, you go. We're talking.
I'm gonna motion, I'm gonna talk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
we are,
discussing
we are,
what the
I
same
think,
thing
yeah.
I'm probably gonna do. Sick. So I got a few things to say about this one. Very happy to miss it. So I think a change that we could make here, again, if I could be listened to, would be office hours within the same week, because we are students. And a thing that I've found working on my thesis is my professor will be like, hey, can we meet now? And I'm like, no, but okay, like I have no choice. And so I have to move my stuff around a lot, and my office hours on a Thursday, and Friday's just not feasible. So it ends up being that, especially for the end of the week, like senators just don't have the option to make it up. And which can be very frustrating, and we are students first. So I think it's reasonable to allow us to make it up the next week. I totally understand wanting to enforce having office hours when you're supposed to be in your office hours, period. I get it. I think we could give ourselves a little grace here. And I think it's more than reasonable to say, okay, make it up the next week. Obviously you can't make up 3 in 1 week or something like that. But I think if you miss one, you can make it up the next week. And I think that's something that we could mess around with here.
Motion to amend.
Oh, sorry.
Do you want me to do that motion now?
Can you do it in like 2 seconds?
Go ahead.
Period. Actually, you know what? Make the motion because I have another point on another thing.
Can I direct?
You can direct first.
So the intentionality, there's different avenues that senators can take to make up office hours within the same week. So if you know that you might have a conflict during your office hour, you can do it at any point during the week from that Monday through Friday timeline. And if you do have an office hour on a Thursday or on a Friday and it does prevent you, something that does come up, then that's where you can submit an absence request. for, in your example, a thesis appointment, that would fall into the school category for absence requests, and in past practice would be accepted. But then being able to say that office hours can be made up week after week, it dilutes the purpose of having it in that week. Just like we have committees that report on the same week for that consistency purpose.
Thank you for clarifying that. Do you still want to make a motion?
Motion to amend section 12, the red, to say senators who need to make up their missed office hour must make up the office hour within 1 week from the office hour that they have to miss, or submit an absence request. If someone can make that language shorter, that would be great.
Someone's gonna watch, she's like, that'd be great.
They must make up the office hour within 1 week of the day they have to miss the office hour.
Y'all get that?
Or submit an absence.
Y'all get that?
Like,
Yeah.
if
I mean,
you have to,
second.
if you find out on Thursday that you have an
Change that
office
word.
hour, like your professor is asking you to meet with you at that time, rather than having to make it up on that day or the Friday, you have until the following Thursday to make it up. So that gives you the Friday, the Monday, the Tuesday, the Wednesday, or the Thursday.
Point of inquiry, so what would happen if, say, that it's winter break the following week and you miss your office hours that entire week? So that's, I guess, a hole that you're gonna find yourself in. So that's why it needs to be done within the same week. It's to prevent those, we're going on spring break or et cetera. So I would say no.
There's still a motion on the floor, so
Yep.
is there a second?
Sorry, the point of information, there's also those holes where if you have to miss an office hour on a Thursday, there's no class on that Friday, they can't make up that office hour in the same week.
Point of information, you can make, you can.
Whoa. Oh, the secretary can speak.
As the previous senator mentioned, you are allowed to submit the absence request in that same week. So it does not have to be on Friday, it could be on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, well in advance to that being the case. That was the hypothetical being used in.
Point of personal privilege, just so I understand. So this is like if I have an office hour on a Friday, I would have to make it up before next Friday.
Yep.
Okay.
Can I do a personal privilege as well, real quick?
Sure.
The wording is very confusing. Senators who need to make up their missed office hours must make up the office hour of the day that they have to make up the office hour.
Let's make up the office hour within 1 week of the day.
A lot of office hour and makeup.
Point of parliamentary, nope, point of information. Within the same week doesn't necessarily mean Sunday to Saturday. It could mean if your office hour is on Tuesday, like it could mean Tuesday to Tuesday. Depends on the interpretation of the executive board. And the next executive board, not speaking for them and how they interpret things, could interpret it that way if next Senate and next executive board wants it to be that way. It doesn't, the bylaws are vague for a reason.
If we really wanted to get down to the nitty gritty, could we also just say like, can you move it so it doesn't have the thing? Senators who need to make up their missed office hour within must what? Senators who need to make up the missed office hour must make it up within the same week, submit an absence request, or discuss with the secretary to find a better route as to which it fits them.
Point of information.
Okay,
I'm
just there was a motion on the floor. There was not a second. We need to hear any second that there was to that, or if we clean up that motion, dive forward.
So there's a motion to make that amendment. Is there a second? All in favor of
The language of the motion is incorrect though. It says, it should say must make up the office hour within 1 week of the day that they missed the office hour.
All right, everyone, or is there a second for that?
Second.
All in favor of making that amendment? All opposed? Abstentions? All right, that fails. So don't worry about it.
Motion to change that to instead, senators need to make up their office hours within a 6-day period from their missed office hour.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of making that amendment? All opposed? Abstentions? All right, that motion fails. Would anyone like?
I'm not finished yet.
Oh, you're not finished?
No.
Quickly, quick motion to limit debate to 8 minutes.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Abstention. Debate's not limited.
Cool. The other thing is going to be the dress code. Can we go down to that? There it is. Right there. Meow. So this comes up a lot, like a lot. If I could write the bylaws, I would make it, instead of business casual, I would do smart casual. What smart casual means is essentially it's taking us down a notch, which increases our approachability. It decreases the elitism, and you heard how it is for the org leaders to come to a Senate meeting. And part of it they mentioned numerous times is how we dress. So smart casual would basically be like, look nice. Like you can't show up in your sweatpants and stuff like that, but it's not showing up. You have to show up in a dress, in a suit. There's numerous suits around the table, things like that. Smart casual is more like a sweater and nice pants and things like that. So just look nice versus you're walking into a business meeting. So.
Liz, first, I'm gonna go.
So a few things. The reason that business casual is utilized is because it's a generally accepted principle in the Western attire. Smart casual can have different interpretations. Our parliamentarian has made numerous one sheets on what dress code entails according to business casual. And there is nothing in there that says that there has to be one suit in this room. If Student Senate wanted to say, we don't want suits at meetings, then that's up to all of those wearing suits to say, I'm not gonna wear a jacket. I'm just gonna wear a dress shirt. That's not something that our bylaws can tell us about that. That has to be a commitment that next year's Senate makes to change the image. Changing it to the minimum standard does not mean that the maximum will change. When how many suits do we have here? How many jackets do we have? You don't even need a tie according to business casual. But how many ties do we have here today?
If I may continue my turn, this was more or less bringing up what has been going on for the past 4 years, the conversation that's going to continue, and the conversation that we were literally just told to our faces is the issue for the board leaders. So if this is an SS49 issue, amen. But at the same time, I think if we have the time and the moment to address this, and I see people nodding as I'm saying this, so it's not like this is something that's not wanted, but then all of a sudden, I never understand this. Every single time, people will be like, yeah, it's a great idea, and then everyone votes it down, and I don't understand what's going on and why that happens. And I think it will help with the culture because, period. Yes, we need to bring, I think definitely it's an internal standard issue that we need to bring down. Like suits aren't needed. You walk in, everyone's wearing a suit. You're gonna wear a suit. And like when Zoe came to give her declaration of intent, she was like, I dressed up to be on the level of you guys. And she was in a suit. And I was like, okay, like that speaks to how people view Senate. And I think that this should be really thought about for a minute and then continue, I guess. But if I could be listened to, and if people who have left could be listened to the past like 4 years and probably the years before that, the next 4 years, if this is about could be listened to, it would be changing this part of it to even slightly address the approachability issue at Senate.
Can I correct? There has already been numerous directs. So if you want to add a point of information, you can add yourself to the speakers list, but I'm going to continue on with the speakers list. Does anyone want to yield a speaking turn to Caleb?
Always.
Okay. My question was just about what was being discussed before. I was going to ask if the student body was notified if office hours for senators change.
Anyone want to?
Kind of direct. Sure. So this semester we did not post the office hours, but in going forward, I would hope that posting the office hours, you guys could do updates
And it just is a matter of changing what we have saved on the Instagram story and just resharing it out basically and posting it. If we decide to post it in another formal location, just changing that out. It usually is, yes.
Matt, we're next to the speakers list.
Mine's just very quick. I just want to know, if you go to section 4, what goes into, like, I know it's like committee, vice president, president, treasurer, etc., and then the chairs and then the councils, but like what goes into like the councils or what makes parking council above DEI, or like what makes academic, I know it's like probably super simple, but like what makes clubs and orgs above academic affairs? I think it's like probably because like Brian, if it came down to it, like Brian would probably be better equipped for the role because he has more of a procedural role than me, but I don't know. I just want to know.
Yeah. First point of inquiry, what are you asking? Why people are in certain positions?
No. What I'm asking is like, if the line of succession, if it were to go down that list, just like what makes parking council above.
Okay, so the line of succession, my direction, the line of succession is that way. Simply like have it listed in the bylaws.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's simple. Parking council is listed before DEI and then sustainability.
I just
literally just have it listed in the bylaws.
Point of information.
Go ahead.
The councils are listed in that way in the order that they were established.
Yes.
So Park Council was established in 45. Then DEI was introduced the bill before sustainability. So that's how they're listed in that order.
Point of inquiry, should director of communications be included in that line now?
Point of information.
Oh, no, it's not a senator. Never mind.
Yep.
Take it back. Never mind. Ignore me. Jay, everyone else has mentioned something.
Huh?
Jay?
Withdrawn.
Okay. Anyone else to the speakers list? Go ahead.
Can you go back to just quickly?
Motion to exhaust speakers list.
Second. All those in favor of exhausting the speakers list? All opposed? Speakers list is now exhausted.
How much time do we have left?
There have been many times where I've spoken with youth senators, and they came dressed in what they believed was business casual, but then they felt underdressed because of the level that other people take the dress code. And so I think it is going, even though people still have free will, and if it says smart casual, they still have the right to wear a suit, I think it will be a part of changing the culture of the Senate to make it more welcoming to others. So motion to amend to say the dress code policy is smart casual for general Senate meetings, except when a guest speaker is present, then the dress code will be business casual.
Second.
All those in favor of that amendment? All opposed?
I changed my vote.
Point of order. Let's please keep the dismissive comments to ourselves.
Abstention? That motion fails. Domian.
I was just going to say, it is worth noting that in that section, it says the secretary shall be responsible for enforcing dress code policy. So that's that vagueness interpretation to future senates. Motion to call this bill to question.
Friendly amendment.
I don't really know what this word is supposed to be, but on the second from last line, it says maintain and a
I've been
trying to figure it out. Is it absence? Okay.
Anemone. Second.
All opposed. Abstentions. All right, this bill's now being called to question.
Adam Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Domian.
Yes.
LaFontaine.
Yes.
Mike Rowe.
Yes.
Brian Crow.
Yes.
Ali Shum. Matt Tilly.
Abstain.
Mackenzie Morgan.
Yes.
Jason Regan.
Yes.
Yes.
Isabel Bolger. Yes. Luis Diagarta.
Yes.
Ashley Harris. No. Brian Peter. Fiona Dolan.
No.
Michaela Apt. Joe Pastuli.
Yes.
Alexander Robbins.
Yes.
Hiroshi Imai.
Yes.
Stephen Elsner.
Yes.
Wow.
Any piece of legislation for old business? Izzy.
Introducing SS48-116, a bill adding a confidentiality policy to the students. Sorry, I just died personally. Introducing SS48-116, a bill adding a confidentiality policy to Article 2 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration.
Would you like to elaborate?
Yes, please. So, as we can see, reading the bill, it has been expressed confidentiality policy may be needed. In addition to the number of bills and sections that state to remain confidential or, to hold confidentiality, but there's no confidentiality policy to be followed. So with that being said, I think this is a great way to back it up. There's a couple of points that I want to make to clarify before we start rattling off with questions, which will be obviously welcomed. More than happy to have that discussion with all of you. So one, we stated what confidentiality is, what the general one should be for the confidentiality policy for Student Senate. As I'm going to I welcome friendly amendments and amendments because again, this is an all of us thing. This is applying to all of us. So I do believe that we all have a right to kind of chat about this. Then we have it in confidentiality is required in the following situations. Please note line D, any other situation where it is requested for the membership to remain confidential. Adding a list of places in which confidentiality should be applied is just going to be unnecessary. So that's why we added D to kind of sum up those situations. Another thing I wanted to point out is Senate members are bound to this confidentiality policy unless a serious or harmful matter pertaining to themselves or others occurs. The reason why we kept it vague with serious or harmful matters is because one, we don't want someone to be like, this is confidential. You can't say it to another person. And then unfortunately, it's another person taking advantage of someone else, potentially sexual assault, or forceful intoxication, or something that in which just really violates and harms someone physically, mentally, and emotionally. So that's why we have this in there, is because you should not be bound to confidentiality and should not fear expulsion or being requested to step down for demerits because you or someone you know was taken advantage of. With that being said, we also express that this needs to remain informational because again, confidentiality policies need to be flexible because again, there's moments that are not outlined in this, so we can't outline every single moment. And it can be added to or things can be removed as needed. Now, with that being said, I forgot what I was going to say. A moment, please.
While you're processing, I'm going to add a little bit to it. So I just want to go with that last line. I think this is one of the more important parts of the legislation is that this would make it so that no matter what you're told, you are to proceed with the assumption that what you have been told and witnessed is confidential unless you are told otherwise, or it is not a confidential. So that way you can't say, oh, I found out later that this is something that needs to be confidential. You should have gone off the assumption that it was confidential from the start.
Can you go back up? Sorry, I know this is my bill, but I need to actually. Yeah, let's open it up for questions.
All right, Domian.
So just for clarification, I know, for example, I've been on demerit appeals a few times, and I know it's confidential. There's nowhere that was ever listed that it was to be kept confidential before. Like this is just like the first time.
Just sorry to direct off of that. So yeah, it does say like don't talk about it here. So we're just saying like this is an example of when not to. This isn't being like the first mention of demerits being confidential. It also says somewhere in there, I think during closed meetings as well. Basically, this is just stating as like yeah, you're told to be confidential, but what does that mean? And this is the what does that mean for us statement.
Gotcha.
Thanks for the question.
Alex? I have a question. Maybe I'm just misremembering, but isn't that last paragraph included in another bylaw bill or another piece of the bylaws? Or am I just misremembering it? It's just reworded.
To be honest, even if it is, I think having it there again isn't a harm. And this is the policy that we have. So if it's listed somewhere else, it isn't listed in our confidentiality policy because we don't have one. So at least with this one, it is saying like 100% our policy is to proceed with caution, basically.
It was just more of a question, is like this exact wording somewhere else? Because it looks very familiar, like somewhere else in the bylaws, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Because even if it's non-exact wording, I completely get your point, but if it's exact wording, then why are we adding the same paragraph again? I'm starting somewhere else.
So, sorry, to direct off of that, I would say take it out of somewhere else then, because here, this is the confidentiality policy, like this is the thing. So it's best fit here than it is anywhere else.
I will also add, this was not taken from another part of the bylaws, this was completely written from scratch. So if it is, someone please let us know so we can amend that right now and strike it out. But based off of, we worked with Ali, who supported us in writing this. And I do not think that within any other parts of the bylaws it is mentioned. So yeah.
Again, it could be me totally misremembering it. It just looked really familiar.
So
with the
there
language.
is language that is mentioned in other parts, like failure to follow X, Y, and Z is deemed unfitting fitting the center. Like that is throughout this, but in this regarding confidentiality. Thank you for the question and clarification.
Thank you.
Matt.
I like this a lot. More of just a quick thing. I think this is a lot of things that we kind of already do, but it's putting it into writing. I can think of numerous policies or councils like Zach's entire job is confidentiality, the entire parking council, academic affairs, and scholarships. So it kind of goes on without saying, dinner appeals, closed meetings, etc. And I kind of think it's common practice, but I really am happy to see that you guys put it in writing and going over it. I was very pleased reading it.
Definitely a needed part of the bylaws because it has gone kind of under the rug for a long time. Let me scroll down. Sorry, kind of, yeah. So my one kind of idea behind it, the last line starting with if, it sounds very prescriptive, like it's an instruction set and not necessarily how bylaws would read. The please reach out to Senate advisors. So I would make a friendly amendment to strike if to but and then have proceed be like the starting of the new sentence so that we take out the instruction set behind it.
So you want to strike out everything from if to but and then have just the last sentence read proceed with assumption that confidentiality should be used until given confirmation. Can you say from executive orders and advisors?
Yeah.
Okay, can we make that one whole amendment?
Could you repeat it?
Yes. Motion to make an amendment to strike the last sentence from if to but and make the sentence read proceed with assumption that confidentiality should be used until given confirmation from the executive board or student senate advisors.
Second.
Sorry, point of personal. How are you ending it? After the word confirmation, what are you adding?
From the executive board or student senate advisors.
Given permission?
Until given confirmation from student senate advisors or executive board.
All's in favor. Was there a second?
Yes, there was.
All's in favor of making an amendment. All opposed. Second. That amendment passes. Next one, Adam.
Oh, that was me.
Oh, you already did it. Sorry. Jay.
These are the kind of bills we love. These are the kind of easy to understand, room for nuance, room for interpretation bills that are needed, provide that place for upcoming e-boards to make their discretion. This is very well written. This is exactly the kind of thing that we should be looking for in making new kinds of policy like this, and it's a needed policy. So great job, y'all.
Point of personal privilege. I want to double check to make sure everyone is okay with the, can you please go scroll up? With the Senate members are bound to X, Y, and Z regarding serious harmful matters. The reason why I inquire is because, again, things like, let's see, suicide, sexual assault, things like that might occur. I'm not saying they have, and I'm not saying they will, but it is kind of almost like a CYA. I want to make sure that we're all comfortable with that as this is going to apply. And I know it can be changed for this current moment.
Yeah.
Thank you. Proceed, motions.
I think for some of the people around this table and people who will be sitting around this table in the future, because of other positions we hold, we are considered mandated reporters. So it is like a requirement of us already to like report these matters and just showing that like if we are responsible for like representing everyone that representing the student body as a whole, that we should be keeping in mind that we are not different from everyone else out there, and these are things that that's possible will impact the people here, and that it's important to take those matters seriously and to report them, address them if needed. Because if we're not focusing on taking care of the people sitting here around these tables with us, then how are we really focusing on taking care of everyone else? So I fully agree with that being included in this bill.
All right. Motion to call this bill to question.
Second. All in favor of calling this bill to question? All opposed? Bill's not being called to question.
Yes.
Domian?
Yes.
LaFontaine?
Yes.
Nicolao?
Yes.
Brian Crown?
Yes.
Ali Schoenfeld? Frank Tully?
Yes.
Mackenzie Morgan? Jason Reagan?
Yes.
Yes. Lee Digger?
Yes.
Ashley? Yes. Riley Beater? Fiona Dolan?
Yes.
Michaela Apt? Yes. Joe Pistoly?
Yes.
Alexandra Robbins?
Yes.
Pierre Shimai?
Yes.
Stephen Nesman? Any other piece of legislation? For Zach.
Introducing SS48-117, a bill allocating funding to WQRI to renew the wide orbit automation system. I will be concise because I know we are approaching a time limit with some stuff left to go. Let him say it first.
8 to 5 minutes.
Second.
Sure. Sure.
I will start the debate one.
Yeah. Yeah. All is opposed? All right.
Should I wait for the bill to get pulled up before I kind of give a background? That's wrong. That one.
Oh.
All right, go ahead, Zach.
All right, so being brief, WQRI is talking to, that's the wrong bill.
Wrong bill.
That's the next one. I was talking to Tommy Dunn, who is the business director of WQRI. They are in a unfortunate circumstance where, so I don't know if you all recall from their budget presentation where he showed all the shows and like the schedule. There was a lot of gaps in there, and that's when they rely on this automation system to kind of keep music playlists going while there's nobody that can be in the booth. And if they do not, there will be nothing playing, which is actually breaking a law. They are not allowed to have dead air. So they have this system, and they paid for, it goes on like a yearly basis, not like academic year. It's like January to February, February to January. So they paid for up to January 2022. In December, that expired. They didn't have room in their budget to cover the remainder of this year. It is worth noting, however, that that has been accounted for in their budget for next year. So they just need this remaining funding to kind of keep the station alive for the rest of the year.
Anyone for the speakers list?
Motion to call this bill to question.
Second. All in favor of calling this?
Let's follow the law.
All those opposed? Abstentions?
Motion to adopt by unanimous consent.
Second.
No,
It's not a bylaw bill.
Second.
Motion
Motion to adopt by unanimous consent.
Second. Is there any dissent? All right.
There we go.
All right.
Missed it.
Zach.
Introducing SS48-118, a bill ratifying all Class A, B, C, D, and E charter budgets for the 2022-2023 academic year.
Would you like to elaborate?
Yes, sure. So at long last, we have our budgets for next year. And as you can see, they are up there. Class A is clubs. Class B is club sports. Class C is Hawks Herald. Class D is ICC, IRHA, MSU, Saga. and Class E is CEN. It's worth noting that these are all increases from last year. MSU and Saga did end up receiving the biggest increases.
My question was concerning that.
Oh, sorry. I'll get right back to you. You have a direct?
Oh yeah, it was just like a quick add-on. Sorry, Joe.
No, it's good. Don't worry.
Wanted to mention that like this all adds up from $973,000 at least $973,500 in total. And as Zach said, all of them have been increased except for club sports because they were requested to remain the same.
Considering IRHA's previous talk about them being their separate entity, are they still going to get some sort of funds from this?
Go ahead.
So IRHA will be funded for the 2022-2023 academic year. After that point, they will stop being funded. They're funded for the last year because they're still making that transition into housing.
Adam?
In prior discussion at our last caucus, there'll be a bill next week waiving IRHA of the requirement. So that will kind of be the second part of the budgeting for IRHA, making sure that they're still able to function as they make that transition over.
Fresh. Anyone else to the speakers list?
Motion to call this vote question.
Second.
Beat me to it.
All in favor of calling this vote question? All is closed. Votes not being called a question.
Motion to adopt.
Is there any dissent? Are there? Second, all in favor of closing old business? All those opposed?
Motion to open new business. Oh.
Second. Yep. Good. Second. All in favor of opening new business? All those opposed? We're now in new business. All right. Go ahead.
Introducing SS48-XXX, a resolution asking for the implementation of Title VI deputies for regular consideration. Zach?
Me? Okay. Introducing SS48-XXX, a bill ratifying the Student Senate budget for the 2022-2023 academic year for regular consideration.
Looking forward to hearing it. Joe?
Introducing this for the amending Article 9, Sections 4 and 7, and introducing SS48-XXX, amending Article 6 and 10, to set bylaws for regular consideration.
Okay. Matt?
Introducing SS48-XXX, a resolution encouraging access to class resources for extended class absences for regular consideration.
Forward to hearing it. Mike?
Introducing SS48-XXX, a bill adding a section to Article 9 of the Student Senate bylaws titled Training and Development for regular consideration.
Looking forward to hearing it. Go ahead.
SS48-XXX, a bill amending an affinity group charter to the Student Senate bylaws for regular.
Looking forward to hearing it. Are there any other pieces of legislation?
Introducing SS48-XXX, a bill amending Article 4, Section 6 and 8, Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration.
Any other pieces of legislation? Right. Oh, Adam? Okay.
I apologize.
You're
I
good.
made a mistake in writing it down. Introducing SS48-XXX, bill amending Article 4, Section 1 through 5 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration. Introducing SS48-XXX, a bill amending Article 4, Section 7 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration.
Go ahead.
Introducing SS48-XXX, a bill amending Article 4, Sections 9 and 10 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration.
Any other? Go ahead.
Introducing SS48-XXX, a bill amending Article 8, Sections 1 and 3 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration.
All right, go ahead.
Introducing SS48-XXX, a bill amending Section 5 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration. Introducing SS48-XXX, a bill ratifying the External Elections Handbook for regular consideration. Introducing SS48-XXX, a bill ratifying the Internal Elections Handbook for regular consideration.
Oh.
Motion to close new business.
Second. All in favor of closing new business? All opposed? Abstentions. Now announcements. I'm gonna go first. The president, yes, President Mialis, will be coming to our meeting next week. He will be discussing topics such as Dr. Fauci coming to our commencement, partnership with the Cummings family. That has been a large topic of discussion for the past week or so. Updates to the master plan and kind of going over his role as the president, what he does, what the purpose of, the president is. So that being said, there will be a question forum going out in the Senate Weekly Update coming next week. Please, I encourage you to put your questions in there. That way we can send them to him ahead of time. And yeah, I'm looking forward to having him at one of our last Senate meetings. And I will go and I'll start with Matt. Sorry, Mike. Then I'll go to Matt.
Just FYI to all members of the Senate. Afterwards, we'll be holding an SS49 caucus where we'll be discussing our internal elections as well as our declarations of intent and nomination process. Any members of SS48 are welcome to attend and make comments. They're not able to vote.
Inquiry?
Go ahead.
Would members of SS48 be able to not nominate, but like elaborate on nominations or provide?
Yes, members of SS48 are allowed to comment as well as provide nominations.
Matt.
Just to bring everybody up on speed, the resolution that I mentioned has been in works for a couple weeks. Izzy, Riley, Fiona, and myself and Allie have been working very hard behind the scenes on this. There's been many meetings and stuff. So in the coming days, we do expect an all-student survey to be launched. I would appreciate if everybody here would take it. It's going over everything, or just getting, Provost Everett described it as a conversation starter to have essentially the beginning of what we can take from COVID and using it further, like the resources that we have on campus. The survey goes into detail on all of that. I just wanted everybody to be aware that it is coming, and I would appreciate if everybody filled it.
Ryan.
All right, so I got some good and I got some bad news. Bad news is one more fun month report for everyone. So sorry. But the good news is this is the last one you'll have to do.
Zach. Well, on that note, just a friendly reminder, folks, that Thursday is SASH. So you will have no classes.
Presentation.
Given that fact, office hours will not be taking place. I think board, I speak for them as well, highly recommend you to attend SASH. It's a great time to really take in everything that's going on and showing some support. So with that, we don't have any questions.
Adam.
A few announcements. Number one, as a reminder, this is the second to last week of councils and committees. So next week will be the last. So we'll go through this week. Next week, the week of the 25th, will be the last week of committees and councils.
So that is the second to last Senate meeting for SS48?
Yes, that's a transition meeting. So it will start off as SS48 and then transform into SS49 during the meeting.
Next week?
Transform.
On May 2nd.
I was gonna say, oh my God.
And then the other announcement is, so we recently heard that we have some new Senate awards, right? 4 new Senate awards. When are they going to be giving out? Well, introducing the first annual Senate Awards banquet that will be taking place on Sunday, May 1st at 5 p.m. Formal invitations will be going out tomorrow likely, so please be on the lookout. We are planning on having our council members, council vice chairs, hearing officers, board of trustees reps, and org leaders and org chairs there to really have as we call it, a Senate umbrella. So all the different spokes on the umbrella that make up the organization will be present and will be recognized. So we're looking forward to that. Please be on the lookout for more information in the coming days.
What awards exactly will be given out at this banquet, Adam?
Well, that's a great question, Allie. E-board member of the year, chair of the year, general senator of the year, legislation of the year, and other awards That everyone will find out on May 1st.
For me, chair of the year.
Bring it home.
Give me one. Give me one.
Sunday, May 1st at 5 p.m.
Where?
More information in the invitation.
Mike.
I have one last announcement. This is for the finance committee. If anyone is free before the meeting from 1 to 2, please let me know. We have to hold an emergency meeting. Contact me afterwards. All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Sure.
All right. Yeah. You didn't let me vote against adjourning this week.